Chapter 1. The faint light of the early morning pierced through the dark blue sky, and the vast horizon was suffused with the color of dawn. Ho! Bang bang! In the woods behind the Martial Arts Training Institute in the Xinyu Prefecture, a skinny young man wearing a loose martial arts robe was squatting down with his legs crossed. He stuck the tip of his tongue against his teeth and concentrated all his strength into his two fists, which were as thick as a man. His fist technique was smooth, and he could retract and release it freely. His inner strength was contained but not spilled out, and there was a hint of softness within the hardness. He had already reached a certain level of mastery. The young man's name was Suyu. He was 14 years old, handsome, tall, and had a childish air about him. His black hair fluttered in the wind, revealing a pair of eyes that were as vast as the stars and as deep as the eternal starry sky, revealing a wisdom that did not match his age. 6 hours later, the sun hung high in the sky. Suyu stopped punching and lowered his head to look at his blood-stained fists. He sighed softly. I work twice as hard as others, but the results I reap are not even half as good as those with better aptitudes. I really don't know if coming to this strange world is a blessing or a curse. 2 months ago, when Suyu was on a plane, he was unfortunately involved in an air crash. When he woke up, he realized that he had traveled to a world called the Xinyu continent. He became a student of a martial arts training institute in the mainland. It took him 2 whole months to digest the memories of the original owner. In the Moon God continent, martial arts were respected, and the weak were prey to the strong. It was cruel and strict. Humans had reached the peak of martial arts cultivation, reaching the realm of transcendence and sainthood. The martial path was divided into 9 levels, and each level had 3 levels: initial success, great success, and peak. Surpassing the 9 stages of the martial path and breaking the shackles, one would become a god and become a legendary figure, known as the Holy King. The worldly Saint King realm was the pinnacle of martial arts. It was the limit pursued by billions of people. It was rumored that the Holy King could move mountains and fill seas. They could ride on clouds and mist and were omnipotent. A worldly Saint King was enough to change the fate of a dynasty for 100 years. He was a godlike existence. However, how difficult was it to cultivate in this world? Suyu was the top genius of Qingshan town, which was under the jurisdiction of the Xinyu Prefecture. At the mere age of 14, he had achieved level 1 peak of the martial path, becoming the genius in the eyes of everyone in Qingshan town. However, when he was recruited by the Martial Arts Training Institute in the Xinyu Prefecture, Suyu realized that he had been a frog at the bottom of a well. The Martial Arts Training Institute gathered all the geniuses in the Xinyu Prefecture and recruited them once a year. As for him, among all the geniuses in the Martial Arts Grandmaster Academy, he was only at the bottom. The Martial Arts Training Institute divided the students into 3 categories based on their aptitude. The core students were demon-level geniuses, and they were the top geniuses in the vast Xinyu Prefecture. They had the highest hopes of chasing after the illusory Holy King. Gold students were outstanding geniuses. They were usually the best of the best in a city. They were the top geniuses that suppressed the other geniuses in the city. They would be heavily nurtured by the Martial Arts Training Institute. Silver students were geniuses with great potential. In the small town, they were a cut above the others in terms of talent. With a bit of effort, there might be hope. Suyu was a silver student. He understood very well that silver students had no hope of achieving the upper tier, but it would be a pity to give up on them. They were tasteless, but it would be a pity to abandon them. They were like chicken ribs. Silver students were not looked upon favorably. The cultivation resources provided by the academy were extremely limited. The possibility of them standing out was close to 0. Suyu returned to the institute quickly. The Duke of Qin has summoned you. An urgent voice cut through the silence of the mountain forest. A blue-clothed middle-aged man ran up the mountain, panting, his face somewhat anxious. Marquis Qin? Suyu froze for a moment. He was just a commoner. How could he have the honor of being summoned by the Duke of Qin? But a pretty face flashed past his mind. Su Yu somewhat understood. His lips formed a cold smile. What are you daydreaming about? How can you neglect the Duke of Qin? Follow me. The blue-clothed, middle-aged man was impatient. He stepped forward and grabbed Su Yu's shoulder. Ignoring the pain of Su Yu's skinny body, he quickly dragged him down the mountain. Su Yu clenched his teeth, enduring the pain in his shoulder. He did not make a sound. The blue-clothed middle-aged man was the deacon of the institute. He was in charge of the daily student activities. In the words of the schools on earth, he was the dean. After half a cup of tea's time, in the institute, there was a luxurious, elegant, dreamlike lounge. Only the core students, the institute's higher-ups, and the rich and powerful could rest here. Gold students and silver students were not qualified. It was Su Yu's first time in a luxurious lounge. An ordinary, poor boy might be nervous, but Su Yu was an elite in the business world in his previous life. He was a frequent visitor to five-star hotels, presidential suites, and luxurious balls. He was calm and indifferent. There were 3 people in the lounge. One was a young man and woman, and the other was a noble, dignified man. When his gaze swept past the 14-year-old girl, Su Yu's gaze paused. She was a girl as pretty as a fairy. Her jade-like face was exquisitely carved. Her skin was as white as the snow in spring. Her figure was exquisite, and she wore a spotless white robe. She was extremely beautiful, like a fox fairy. However, when she looked at Su Yu, her gaze was cold, but it was also slightly complicated. At his side was a 16-year-old youth that was heroic, outstanding, handsome, and indescribably noble. His luxurious robe was a stark contrast to Su Yu's plain martial robe. He looked at Su Yu with disdain. His gaze was calm, but there was a hint of disgust. Finally, there was a dignified man. He was tall and handsome. Even though he stood still, he gave off an oppressive feeling. You must be Su Yu? He, I am the Duke of Qin. It is a pleasure to meet you. The Duke of Qin was one of the 3 great dukes of the Fenglin Empire. At that moment, he did not have any arrogance. Instead, he was unusually cordial. He smiled and invited Su Yu to sit. Su Yu shook his head coldly. He was not moved by the cordial gesture. Those in high positions were the focus of millions of people. Hence, they paid great attention to their health and image. It was just like the politicians on earth. Even though they were at loggerheads with one another, they would still smile and shake hands after meeting. They would only stab each other in the back. I am Qin Feng's father. I have come because of him and Qing'er. The Duke of Qin's handsome face revealed a warm smile. I have heard everything from Feng'er. As Feng'er's father, I would like to apologize to you. Su Yu felt bitterness in his heart. It was the bitterness of the other Su Yu's remnant soul. The girl in front of him was called Jiang Xueqing. She was a genius who had come from Qingshan town with Su Yu. They had both been accepted as students at the Martial Arts Training Institute. The 2 of them were childhood sweethearts, a golden boy and jade girl, a match made in heaven. But after entering the Martial Arts Training Institute, Jiang Xueqing, who came from a small village, was shocked by the huge and flourishing world. She gradually became intoxicated by it. With her fox-like beauty, it was inevitable that she would be pursued by the young nobles and geniuses. Initially, she could still convince herself to stay true to herself and accompany Su Yu through the first year. But gradually, she understood the cruelty of the world. She changed from an innocent little girl. She knew that Su Yu would not have a bright future. If he followed her, he would most likely suffer and become someone's slave. Finally, the line of defense in her heart crumbled. 2 months ago, she completely cut off all ties with Su Yu and became the partner of the Duke of Qin's son, the junior Duke Qinfeng. Even though Jiang Xueqing abided by her duties as a girl from a good family and did not overstep the boundaries between a man and a woman, from then on, The two of them often accompanied each other. They were inseparable, becoming a celestial couple that everyone envied. As for Suyu, he became the laughingstock of the Martial Arts Training Institute. Suyu suffered a huge blow. He begged Jiang Xueqing many times to change her mind. He even knelt down and begged, losing all face. But he was coldly rejected by Jiang Xueqing. Suyu could not bear the tragedy of life and jumped into a lake to commit suicide. Coincidentally, Suyu on Earth had a plane crash, and his soul had transmigrated into the body of this pathetic and pitiful weakling. The Duke of Qin saw that Suyu was lost in his memories and thought that he could not bear to let go of his friendship with Jiang Xueqing. He sighed. Feng'er is young and insensible. I am willing to compensate him for his mistakes. What do you want? Just tell me. But as his father, I hope that you can grant Feng'er his wish. He is serious about Miss Xueqing. Hearing the words of the Duke of Qin, which seemed to come from the bottom of his heart, Suyu secretly shook his head. This little trick might work on ordinary people, but it was useless against him. You stole my girlfriend, and you want me to grant your wish? How was this an apology? This was clearly using his power to oppress others. The Duke of Qin's attitude seemed gentle, but in reality, it was full of undisguised humiliation. If it was the woman of the monarch or the emperor who caught his son's eye, would he, the Duke of Qin, dare to let the monarch give his woman to Qin Feng? He did not dare, because he could not afford to offend the monarch. He could only afford to offend a commoner like Suyu. Suyu calmly shook his head, getting up to leave. He did not have any feelings for a practical girl like Jiang Xueqing. Even if the Duke of Qin did not use his power to oppress others, he did not intend to fight for her. As for the compensation that the Duke of Qin had mentioned, although Suyu lacked training resources, although he was a poor boy, and although he had nothing, he still had an unyielding will. However, he still had a willpower that refused to admit defeat. He had not fallen to the point where he had to be pitted by others. If he really accepted the Duke of Qin's charity today, then he would have lost his entire life. In front of them, Suyu would never be able to raise his head again. Jiang Xueqing understood Suyu's personality. He was stubborn and did not want to admit defeat. Seeing that he was about to leave, she thought that he still did not want to give up. She lightly bit her silver teeth and took light steps forward. Her snow-like eyes were like the cold moon. Suyu, please respect my choice. Since it has come to this, I will make it clear. I hope that you will give up. Jiang Xueqing's eyes flashed with cruelty. Qin Feng is a junior duke. He will definitely be a pillar of the empire in the future. He can give me glory, splendor, and wealth. Can a poor boy from a mountain village like you give me that? Qin Feng is a gold student. In the future, he will chase after the Holy King and stand above millions of people. He can give me a sense of security. Can a mere silver student like you give me that? Suyu, accept the reality. I don't deny that you were once my love and the most dazzling genius in my heart. However, that was because I was too young and naive. The real world is cruel and real. I had no other choice. So you said. Jiang Xueqing cut off the last shred of worry in her eyes. Her gaze on Suyu gradually became distant, as if she was looking at a stranger. She lightly sighed. Brother Feng is a good person. As long as you promise not to look for me in the future, he will do his best to compensate you. He will give you a few spirit elixirs to increase your cultivation level. After thinking for a moment, Jiang Xueqing took out a palm-sized crystal sculpture of a girl. It was crystal clear and sparkled with a deep luster. The most beautiful thing was the crystal sculpture of the girl. She was ethereal and beautiful like a fox fairy. She was as beautiful as a fairy and could cause anyone to be infatuated with her. The sculpture of the girl was vivid and lifelike. It was exactly the same as the owner of the sculpture, Jiang Xueqing. Chapter 2. The crystal statue was personally carved by Suyu, a token of love for Jiang Xueqing. The institute gave him a tael of silver every month. Suyu lived frugally, not daring to buy new clothes or eat good food. When the other male students gathered under the moonlight to buy wine, Suyu slowly saved up, not daring to spend a single cent. He used all the money he saved to buy crystals to carve the most beautiful jiangshu etching in his heart. During the hot summer, when everyone else was enjoying the cool air, he carved with sweat all over his head. Once, he fainted in the dormitory due to heat stroke. During the cold winter, when everyone else was warming up by the stove, he held the ice-cold crystal in his hands, continuously carving. His palms were so cold that they cracked and bled. Finally, after a year of hard work, he finally carved the most beautiful jiangshu etching in his heart. He still remembered the jiangshu etching at that time, her eyes sparkling, so touched and so filled with tears. But today, a year later, the friendship, love, and emotions of the past had all been returned. Suyu lowered his head, looking at the beautiful crystal statue in his hands. His eyes, as deep as the starry sky, were filled with regret for the real Suyu as well as mockery. In his previous life, he had seen too many women who would sleep with whoever had the most money. Jiangshu etching was not worthy of his attention. Other than her beauty, she had no other merits. The feelings have already dissipated. How can there be a pledge of love? This item has no meaning. Unexpectedly, Suyu did not feel disappointed, angry, or sad. Instead, he was as calm as a lake in the deep winter, without a single ripple. With a light wave of his hand, he threw the crystal statue to the ground. Crack! The beautiful and ethereal statue of the lady was instantly shattered, leaving behind pieces of crystal, swaying with the mottled memories of time. With this fall, the last shred of connection between him and Jiang Shueching disappeared. Stretching his body, Suyu revealed a relaxed smile, as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. Phew, you can rest assured now. I was really worried that you still had feelings for me. If Jiang Shueching still had feelings for Suyu, Suyu's remnant soul would never be extinguished, always worrying about her. She was so resolute that the moment she returned the token of love, Suyu's last bit of obsession completely dissipated. Goodbye, my former my former lover. Waving his sleeves, Suyu sighed softly, as if he was conveying the last thought of the deceased Suyu. After that, he left with his hands clasped behind his back and never looked back. The past was like dust, vanishing in time and space. Suyu had passed away, and only a brand new Suyu remained. Jiang Shueching's delicate body trembled. Those words that seemed like they were parting forever had opened her cold heart. When she turned her head, her gaze quickly followed Suyu's back. However, all she saw was a blur as he disappeared into the crowd. At this moment, Jiang Shueching's heart trembled. She felt as if she had lost the most precious thing in her life and would never be able to find it again. Looking at the shattered statue, Jiang Shueching was stunned. After a long time, she regained her senses. Her eyes gradually turned cold and merciless, extinguishing the last shred of affection in her heart. I, Jiang Shueching, am extremely beautiful. I am destined to be an extraordinary woman. Suyu, what do you have to deserve me? It's not that I abandoned you. You are useless. I, Jiang Shueching, will never make a wrong choice. Jiang Shueching left with a cold expression. Qin Feng looked on coldly from the side, saying with disdain, "That kid is pretending to be carefree to get Qinger's attention. Humph, I see that he still hasn't given up." But Duke Qin looked at Suyu's back deeply, slowly shaking his head. "I don't think so. This kid is not as useless and cowardly as you said. On the contrary, he is calm and wise, determined, free, and easy. With a little nurturing, he might become a talent. Then kill him before he rises to power." Qin Feng did not like anyone having any relationship with his woman, even if they were once lovers. Duke Qin shook his head. "No, the monarch's lifespan is coming to an end. This is the time for the fight for the throne. I support the crown prince, and the other princes see me as a thorn in their side. They are looking everywhere for something to use against me. At this critical juncture, if you snatch someone else's partner, I will be guilty of not teaching my son properly. It will be easy for them to use against me." At this point, Duke Qin was slightly angry. Otherwise, as a duke, why would I make a trip to the Xinyu prefecture to settle this matter for you? At this time, if you kill Suyu, isn't it the same as killing someone and snatching their wife? I will definitely be implicated by you. Duke Qin was extremely calm. So, you should bide your time for now. It will not be too late to kill him after the matter is settled. Qin Feng knew this, but he was very uncomfortable. Am I just going to watch him walk around in front of me? Su Yu was a thorn in his flesh. He had to get rid of him. Duke Qin waved his hand. Not killing him for now does not mean we can't touch him. You do not have to worry about this matter. I have my ways to chase him out of the martial arts training institute and completely cut off his path to success. After the time it took to drink a cup of tea, Duke Qin cupped his hands to bid farewell to the blue-clothed, middle-aged man. I will leave this matter to Jiang Zhisher, Duke Qin said meaningfully as he secretly gave him a bag of gifts. Jiang Zhisher smiled apologetically. Duke need not worry. In half a month, it will be the Training Institute's assessment. Half of the silver students are eliminated every year. Su Yu's talent is average and has long been eliminated. That's good. Marquis Qin was relieved and left. Qin Feng watched his father leave, his eyes flashing. Humph. Letting him be eliminated and scram is too easy for him, even though it is not convenient for me to do it myself. Wouldn't it be easy for someone else to do it? Qin Feng said coldly. Qing still has a lingering desire in her heart. I need to let her see Su Yu's sorry state and understand that she will not have a good life with him. Only then can she completely extinguish her desire to rekindle her feelings for him. Back in the forest, Su Yu continued to train as if nothing had happened. But what happened today had upset him, making it difficult for him to train in peace. Looking up at the endless sky, Su Yu clenched his fists. Even though the other Su Yu was humiliated today, who knows if I will suffer the same humiliation in the future? Su Yu was deep in thought. In a world where the strong are respected, why is it that my talent is so poor? Even though I work many times harder than others, I can only achieve half the results? Looking up at the sky, Su Yu was unsatisfied. He roared, "The heavens are unfair! If I were given good talent, I would work 10 times harder to become the Holy King and look down on the world." His angry roar, filled with unwillingness, shot up into the sky. Rumble! Suddenly, Su Yu looked up and saw a small black descending from the sky. With a thunderous roar, it was headed straight for him. F***CK. Damn it, I was just roaring. Do you have to do this? Thump! Ah, a beautiful scream broke the silence of the forest. Su Yu fainted on the spot, his life or death unknown. Night fell. Ouch, it hurts, it hurts. Su Yu's limbs twitched as he slowly regained consciousness. He held his head, the corners of his mouth twitching. Oh, my hand. Su Yu was surprised to find that although night had fallen, his vision was shockingly good. It was as if it was daytime, and his fingerprints could be seen clearly. He could even clearly see a toad that was hiding under a rock 100 meters away, preparing to hunt for food. Finding a reflective metal, Su Yu was surprised to find that his pupils had turned white, like 2 clear crystals, resplendent and dazzling. Surprised, Su Yu stood up. My body. He was used to jumping up, but the strength of his legs was beyond his expectations. He lost control of his body and almost fell. After exploring, he found that his energy had doubled, and his body was as light as a swallow. It was as if he had shed a 20-pound burden and had undergone earth-shattering changes. I've broken through to level 2. Su Yu was shocked, unable to close his mouth. He had entered level 1 peak more than half a year ago, but he had been unable to cross that threshold. He had never thought that his head would inexplicably take a hit and instantly break through. With a flash of hesitation in his eyes, Suyu looked inside himself. He was shocked to find that there was an additional thumb-sized bronze cauldron in his mind. It was carved with 9 dragons, vivid and lifelike, as if it would fly away in the next moment. A trace of residual red liquid seeped out of the small cauldron, slowly transforming his body. Could it be that this mysterious small cauldron hit me and entered my consciousness? At the same time, that mysterious red liquid improved my body, broke through the bottleneck, and allowed me to break through to level 2 of the martial path? Suyu was shocked. He tried to move the cauldron out, but he could not move it. After pondering for a long time, Suyu clenched his teeth. Although I do not know if it is a blessing or a curse, with it, I have broken through to level 2 and obtained a pair of strange eyes. Next, I will focus on training and strive not to be eliminated in the assessment in half a month. Suyu clenched his fists, his expression excited. Looking up to the sky, Suyu's eyes were filled with determination. Cold people, thank you for looking down on me. Thank you for allowing me to live a more exciting life. Ignoring the darkness, Suyu returned to his dormitory. 2 silver students shared a dormitory. The space was cramped and there was only 1 bed for rest. It was said that gold students had their own courtyard and servants to serve them. In the entire martial arts training institute, there were 10,000 silver students and only 100 gold students. As for the rumored core students, there were only 10 demon-level geniuses. One could imagine how difficult it would be to enjoy the comfortable environment of a single courtyard. Suyu's dormitory mate was a dark-skinned, fierce-tempered youth named Wu Song. He had broken through to level 2 lower tier of the martial path a few months ago. As his dormitory mate, Suyu was ordered around like a servant. However, Wu Song's cultivation level was high, and he did not go overboard. Suyu could only swallow his anger. Scram! Sleep in the corridor tonight. Suyu had just pushed open the door when Wu Song kicked him. His right leg was like a whip. In the darkness, Wu Song was unpredictable and difficult to defend against. Fortunately, Suyu's eyes had mutated and he could see nothing in the dark. He tapped his toes and exerted force with his toes. His body was as light as a swallow as he retreated a meter. Whoosh! Wu Song's kick missed, and he had a strange expression. He did not expect Suyu to dodge it. What are you doing? Suyu's gaze turned cold. He was no longer the Suyu of the past who had been bullied. He had no intention of swallowing his anger. You don't like me? You have an opinion? Scram! From now on, the dormitory belongs to me alone. You sleep in the corridor. Wu Song rolled his eyes. How smart was Suyu? He instantly felt that something was amiss. Although his relationship with Wu Song was bad, it was not to this extent. Thinking back to what had happened during the day, Suyu could roughly guess what had happened. Wu Song had most likely been bribed by Qin Feng. He had not held back with that kick, intending to injure Suyu severely. Chapter 3 F***CKU. He was calm and collected, but he was angry when he needed to, and he attacked when he needed to. Tolerating when one should not be tolerating was not tolerating, it was cowardice. The commotion in the corridor attracted the attention of the nearby silver students, and more people popped out. Huh, am I seeing things? Suyu has the guts to fight back against Wu Song? Someone mocked. Many people leaned against the wall to watch the show. Who knows? Maybe his love was stolen and his temperament changed? Haha, interesting. I heard that Suyu would fetch Wu Song's urinal in the middle of the night. Now he dares to fight back. Wu Song sneered. You've grown guts to fight me? Suyu quickly calmed down, ignoring the mockery of the surrounding people, and quickly attacked. Continuous green leaf kick. Suyu moved like a rabbit, attacking with the force of a thunderbolt. One leg stood on the ground, the knee and ankle joints moving in tandem. He lifted his other leg, retracting and releasing. His leg technique was blurry and indistinguishable. Wu Song easily dodged, taking half a step back. Drunken mantis fist. His lower body was slightly squatting, as steady as a boulder, motionless in the wind. His knees were slightly bent, full of explosive power, ready to leap forward at any time to launch an attack. His arms formed a sickle shape, his 5 fingers forming a line, his aura withdrawn like a mantis stalking a cicada. He was both defending and preparing to attack. Wu Song's right arm was as fast as lightning. Creak! The sound of clothes tearing through the air could be heard as his right arm struck the sole of Su Yu's shoe, deflecting the oncoming kick. The onlookers shook their heads and sneered, "Is he an idiot? How could a level 1 peak defeat a level 2? Indeed, even if Su Yu had broken through to level 2, he would not be able to compete with Wu Song. But Su Yu was not discouraged. His leg technique did not stop, and he continued to attack. Wu Song once again blocked, but he frowned. He realized that the power of the following attacks could not make him relax. Between his fingers, there was a hint of pain. What was going on? How could a mere level 1 have such terrifying abilities? The two were entangled, their figures crisscrossing, their fists and legs clashing. Creak! The sounds of fighting attracted more attention. What is going on? Su Yu had exchanged so many blows with Wu Song. Did Wu Song deliberately avoid it? Some people gradually realized that something was wrong, and they put away their mocking expressions. I don't think so. Wu Song seems to be struggling. A person with good eyesight said in an uncertain tone. The two of them were locked in a stalemate. At that moment, Su Yu was surprised to discover that in his eyes, Wu Song's speed had slowed down by 30%, as if he had taken a drug that slowed him down. What's going on? Su Yu was stunned. Whatever. Taking advantage of the moment when his opponent slowed down, Su Yu found a flaw in his lower jaw. He immediately kicked his right leg. Bang! Song Wu's chin was hit hard. His body felt like it was electrocuted and was thrown into the bedroom. His back hit the hard edge of the bed and he screamed in pain. His forehead was covered with sweat. How is this possible? Wu Song's expression changed. As he fought, his opponent's speed inexplicably increased by 30% and kicked him. You broke through to the second stage of the martial Dao. Wu Song stared at his opponent's energy and was shocked. He attributed the strange change to his opponent's cultivation base breakthrough. The surrounding people then looked at his opponent's energy and were shocked. What? This son of a bitch. Oh, Su Yu broke through to the second stage? A level 1 peak student who had been mocking Su Yu changed his words at the last moment, his heart trembling. Su Yu's talent was average among the silver students. It was not bad, but it was not outstanding either. It was very mediocre. Teacher Chen, who had taught them, had evaluated that Su Yu needed at least 2 more years to break through to the second stage. Now that Su Yu had broken through to the second stage, it was shocking. Among the silver students, level 2 belonged to the middle tier, surpassing most of the students. Most of the students watching the commotion were only at level 1. Su Yu sent Wu Song flying with a kick and coldly scanned the noisy crowd. At that moment, everyone shrank their necks and scurried back to their rooms. Oh my God! Su Yu broke through to the second stage? It's over. I've beaten him once before. Damn, this kid has hidden his strength well. From the way he defeated Wu Song, he might have already broken through to the second stage. The reason he did not do anything was to see who would bully him. It's over. I'm probably being targeted. The heavens are blind. If he can break through to the second stage with his talent, why can't I? The silver assessment is coming soon. At that moment, the crowd was silent. Su Yu had become a level 2 student in one fell swoop. He was already a well-known figure in many people's hearts, and they were in awe of him. Those who had caused trouble for him in the past were uneasy, afraid that he would take revenge. Feeling the changes, Suyu secretly sighed. This was indeed a world where strength was respected. His gaze finally landed on Wu Song, who was howling on the ground. Take your bed and get out of my sight. From today onwards, the corridor will be your kennel. Suyu threw Wu Song's bedding out. He had no mercy to bestow on his enemies. Wu Song was not satisfied, but he had suffered minor injuries, and Suyu was strange. He could only swallow his anger, grit his teeth, and move out. With a flash of his eyes, Wu Song disappeared into the darkness. How is it? How is the plan going? In the darkness, Qin Feng's familiar voice could be heard. Wu Song respectfully and carefully said, "The opponent has broken through to the second stage of the martial path. The plan failed, and we did not take the opportunity to break his ribs." Broke through? Him? That trash? Qin Feng was surprised. He muttered to himself for a moment, then slowly waved his hand. "You can go. You are no longer of any use. I need to find someone else." Who? Wu Song was not satisfied. If he had made sufficient preparations, he was confident that he could defeat Suyu. Qin Feng's lips formed a mocking smile. Chen Feng! What? The poisonous widow, Chen Feng. Wu Song's expression of dissatisfaction turned into one of horror, filled with fear. Chen Feng was a strong level 2 upper tier of the martial path, ranked in the top 100 among the silver students. Her poison techniques made it difficult for people to get within 3 inches of her. Very few people of the same cultivation level could restrain her. During the assessment, anyone who met her would have a headache. What was even more terrifying was that Chen Feng was vicious and merciless. She would deliberately strike ruthlessly every time. None of the enemies she had fought had come out unscathed. Those who vomited blood on the spot and had their arms and legs broken were all minor injuries. What was terrifying was that her poison techniques were top-notch. Many people did not even know that they had been poisoned. It was already too late by the time the poison took effect. There was once a beautiful student whom she was jealous of. The two of them had an official battle by chance. The beautiful student was more skilled and won. Nothing happened at the time. A month later, the hidden poison in the beautiful student's body acted up. Her face was ulcerated and she could not seek medical help. In the end, she dropped out of the academy. Although her family elders found a miracle elixir to restore her appearance, she missed the opportunity to enter the martial arts training institute and her future was ruined. In the academy, many silver students hated her to the core, but no one dared to take revenge. Because Chen Feng had an older brother, Chun Tianan, his potential was terrifying. He was comparable to a gold student. Among the silver students, no one could match his ability. He was the undisputed #1 silver student. The #1 silver student would usually receive a special honor, the Silver King. It meant that he was the king of the silver students, the strongest person. Qin Tiannan's character was vengeful, similar to Qin Feng. Who would dare to take revenge on Qin Feng? Thinking of the terrifying existence of the Silver King, Wu Song's face turned pale. If Suyu met her, Wu Song shuddered, feeling sorry for Suyu. Regardless of whether he won or lost, his fate would be ugly. The next morning, Suyu was mentally exhausted. He had been excited the entire night. The small bronze cauldron had changed his life, giving him the opportunity to become a strong person. He had been pondering the changes in himself the entire night. Putting aside the small bronze cauldron, it remained motionless in his mind. The biggest change was in his eyes. The hidden crystalline pupils not only had the ability to see in the dark, they also had a strange ability to increase his speed. The people of the Shenuet continent might find it difficult to understand, but Suyu had a lot of scientific knowledge. He understood the principle behind this increase in speed, time manipulation. He had placed himself in a space where time was accelerated. Therefore, Wu Song felt that Suyu's speed had suddenly increased by 30%. Such a nature-defying ability made it difficult for Suyu to sleep. This meant that as long as the opponent's ability was not too much higher than his, he had a chance of winning. Suyu did not become arrogant or complacent because of this. His ability was still too weak. The reason he had been able to defeat Wu Song the night before, when he had just broken through to level 2, was largely due to Suyu's perseverance in training and building a solid foundation. However, his enemy was not Wu Song, but the high and mighty gold student Qin Feng, who is also the son of the powerful Marquis Qin. To increase my ability, not only do I need a high level of cultivation base, my cultivation techniques are also of utmost importance. Tomorrow, I will choose a cultivation technique. After daybreak, Suyu immediately rushed to the depository of scriptures of the Martial Arts Training Institute. He could enter and exit with his student identification. But silver students only had the right to enter the first level. There were still the second and third levels. Only gold students had the right to enter the second level. As for the third level, only the 10 elusive geniuses could enter. Although he coveted the 2 levels, Suyu could only choose the first level because he was not qualified. There are 101 offensive cultivation techniques and 1,001 auxiliary cultivation techniques. You can only borrow one of them, and you're not allowed to borrow any more within half a year. An old man who was guarding the staircase looked at Suyu and instructed him mechanically. The reason he was not allowed to borrow another within half a year was for the sake of the students. Students who had just entered the martial paths did not have a firm heart. If one cultivation technique did not show any results, they would want to switch to another. This way, a large amount of energy and time would be wasted and they would achieve nothing in the end. The benefits of limiting the time limit for half a year were obvious. First, the students would consider carefully when making their choice to avoid making the wrong choice and regretting it for half a year. Second, after making their choice, the students would be determined to cultivate. I can only borrow one. Suyu was filled with regret. Cultivation techniques were divided into 3 grades: upper, middle, and lower. The continuous jade leaf kick was a lower grade cultivation technique. Moreover, it was the easiest cultivation technique to cultivate among the lower grade cultivation techniques. Chapter 4. To pass the test in half a month, just relying on a beginner level technique was far from enough. So you needed to cultivate a more powerful technique. The first level of the scripture depository was filled with low-grade techniques. But even low-grade techniques had differences in strength, other than the power of the technique itself. It also depended on whether the cultivator was suited to cultivate the technique and whether they could unleash the full power of the technique. For example, the same leg technique. Those who were proficient in leg techniques would have their power multiplied after cultivating. Those who had never cultivated leg techniques would have average power after cultivating. Hence, Suyu did not insist on the power of the technique. He focused more on whether it was compatible with his own attributes. He had the foundation of leg techniques and the mastery of palm techniques. He had many choices. Oh, universal stroke? Suyu discovered a low-grade cultivation technique. It was a combination of fist and leg techniques. Its power and cultivation difficulty were far above that of the continuous jade leaf kick. Among the many low-grade techniques, universal stroke was one of the best. It could be considered a low-grade, top-notch technique. Suyu calmed his heart and read it carefully. Yellow spring refers to the underground. Universal stroke points to the sky. Universal stroke describes everything in the heavens and the earth. This technique is a combination of both fist and leg techniques. The fists and legs are intertwined, and the attacks are airtight and impossible to defend against. It has the aura of an inescapable heaven and earth. The basic requirements are for the fists and legs to have a certain level of control. The body must be agile, and the coordination must be strong. It must be as calm as a gorgeous leaf, and as swift as lightning. The core requirement is for one's eyesight to be extremely good, to be able to see everything in the world and to control their movements. Otherwise, there is no benefit to cultivating it. Cultivate it carefully. Less than 1 in 1,000 people can successfully cultivate this technique. Su Yu's eyes were burning. This was tailor-made for him. Universal stroke was extremely powerful, and there were bound to be many who coveted it. But while they might have met the basic requirements, it would be difficult for them to meet the core requirements. With his eyesight, Su Yu could now see the leg of an ant from 100 meters away. All right, I'll cultivate it. Su Yu was secretly delighted. The old man glanced at Universal Underworld and shook his head. Young man, don't be impatient. Choosing a cultivation technique that suits you is the key to success. The power of the cultivation technique is secondary. Su Yu bowed to express his gratitude. Senior, thank you for your guidance. Although the old man was cold, every word he said was a gem, so he should be grateful. After pondering for a while, Su Yu decided to put aside universal stroke for the time being. He could only enter the sutra depository once every 6 months. How could he not take a look? He had seen more than half of the 101 offensive techniques, but none of them caught his fancy. The Yellow Springs was far less suitable for him. Suddenly, when he reached the 101st, which was also the last cultivation technique, his eyes lit up. Secret Scroll of 100 Feet Piercing Arrow. This scroll is only suitable for archers. Power depends on the power of the bow, and arrow itself, the archer's arm strength, accuracy, and whether or not the arrow hit a vital point. Different people use it, and the power is different. The basic requirements are extremely high in terms of eyesight. You must be able to see flies from a distance of 50 meters. If you can't reach this level, you must not cultivate it to avoid wasting your energy and time. Su Yu was greatly moved. In his eyes, he could clearly see the legs of ants from 100 meters away. This far exceeded the requirements. Suppressing his desire to take it away, he continued to read. After a short while, he had browsed through all 108 auxiliary techniques. Only Universal Stroke and Secret Scroll of 100 Feet Piercing Arrow caught his eye. He was not in a hurry to leave, patiently reading through the auxiliary techniques. There were 1,001 scrolls, and there were many types. There were terrifying poison techniques, alchemy techniques, formations, and talismans. These were not Su Yu's forte, so he was not interested. Suddenly, he discovered a light body cultivation technique called Cloud Shadow. It was an auxiliary technique. This scroll is only suitable for people with extremely high levels of perception. It is extremely difficult to comprehend, so choose carefully. Power, if cultivated to stage 1 top class, 1 speed will be unparalleled in the same realm. If cultivated to stage 2 top class, 1 speed will be comparable to a strong martial artist of a higher realm. If cultivated to stage 3 top class, 1 speed will be much faster than a higher realm. Cultivation requirements, powerful perception. Less than 1 in 10,000 people can successfully cultivate it. Be careful. Su Yu was envious. Less than 1 in 10,000 people. To put it bluntly, no one in the entire martial arts training institute had successfully cultivated it. Even Su Yu was tempted by its power. If he could successfully cultivate it, coupled with a 100 feet piercing arrow, his long-distance attacks would be like adding wings to a tiger. But it was a pity that he could only take 1 scroll away. Su Yu returned to Universal Stroke, unwillingly, picking it up and reading it carefully. He wondered if he could forcefully memorize 1 scroll and take the other with him. His memory in his previous life was not bad. Although he did not have a photographic memory, it was more than enough to memorize 3,000 words in an hour. But after roughly counting the number of words in Universal Stroke, he was disappointed. There were at least 30,000 words, and he would need 10 hours to memorize them. Obviously, the depository of scriptures would not allow students to stay for 10 hours. But as he flipped, Su Yu realized he had entered a strange realm. The old man at the side was motionless, as if he had turned into a wooden man. The air was still. Coincidentally, a student walked in and froze in place with his foot in the air. Time control! Su Yu was shocked, immediately thinking of the ability of his eyes. When he was flipping through the book, the talent of his eyes was activated, causing him to enter an extremely fast flow of time. He experienced 10 hours, while others only experienced 1 hour. It was different from when he was fighting. It seemed that when the blood energy in his body was boiling, the flow of time would only increase by 30%. But when he was in a quiet state, such as when he was reading, the flow of time would increase by 10 times. Su Yu was overjoyed, immediately focusing on reading. 10 hours later, Su Yu's face was pale. He was exhausted after memorizing 30,000 words. But there was a hint of joy on his face. Universal stroke had already been completely imprinted in his mind. And all of this had only taken an hour in the outside world. The old man was surprised that Su Yu had stared at a book for an hour. Could it be that he wants to memorize the entire book? Unless he has a photographic memory, it is impossible. The old man was unconcerned. Next, Su Yu used the same method, spending 10 hours to memorize the entire 100 feet piercing arrow secret scroll. In the end, he only borrowed Cloud Shadow. After memorizing 2 scrolls of cultivation techniques, he was exhausted. Moreover, he should not bite off more than he could chew. 3 scrolls of cultivation techniques was his limit. The old man was stunned. "Good lad, I have warned you many times not to bite off more than you can chew, but you do not believe me. There are countless people who covet Cloud Shadow, but only a few have successfully cultivated it. Let's see what you can do if you learn nothing in half a year." The old man was unhappy. Remember, the cultivation techniques of the depository of scriptures are not to be spread to outsiders. Once reported, you will be expelled from the institute. Yes, Su Yu cupped his fists. When he returned to the dormitory, Wu Song was lazily lying in the corridor, calmly accepting the gazes of passers-by. Seeing Su Yu return, he had a provocative look. "This place is indeed suitable for you." Su Yu smiled, ignoring him. Wu Song was unruffled, rejoicing in Su Yu's misfortune. "Anyway, you will not stay here for long. In the end, I will still be the only one in the dormitory." Su Yu raised his eyebrows. After entering, he found a black letter on the table. "I heard that Brother Su has broken through to level 2, and your abilities have improved greatly. I am eager to spar with Brother Su. In 7 days at the Institute's Silver Arena, I will fight you, Chinfeng." Chinfeng? Su Yu's mind flashed with her joy, his face turning serious. He had heard of this woman's reputation. She was cruel and merciless, her poison techniques strange and unpredictable. He did not know how many silver students she had crippled. Chinfeng again. Su Yu's heart was clear. He had never met Chinfeng. Why would she challenge him? Frowning, Su Yu's heart felt heavy. He could ignore a normal challenge. But in 7 days, the Institute would hold a challenge arena once every half a month. The person being challenged would be in the same realm and could not refuse. He had broken through to level 2 lower tier of the martial path. Chinfeng was in the same realm and could not refuse. Otherwise, he would be punished by the Institute, demoted or expelled. With Chinfeng watching from the side, he could not wait for Su Yu to refuse, so he could find a reason to expel him. He gave up. Chinfeng is not someone who has just broken through to level 2 like you. Wu Song was rejoicing in Su Yu's misfortune. Su Yu entered the forest behind the mountain with a solemn expression. "I do not have full confidence in cultivating to level 2 upper tier in 7 days. The only thing that can increase my abilities are the 3 scrolls of techniques." First was Universal Stroke, a combination of punches and kicks. This technique did not require a strong understanding of the technique, but focused more on basic skills. Punches and kicks, agility of movement techniques, and most importantly, eyesight. Su Yu had all of these. He began to silently practice in the vast forest. 2 days later, crack! A punch and a kick intertwined like a shadow, hitting the same spot on the tree. His accuracy was frighteningly high. The time between the punch and kick was less than half a breath. Su Yu's face was filled with excitement. Although Su Yu's talent was average, he never gave up. He trained his body for a long time, so his physical qualities are excellent. With the help of my crystalline pupils, his cultivation was a piece of cake. In such a short time, he cultivated to Stage 1 top class. Stage 1 top class, punches and kicks attacking at the same spot, full of explosive power. Coupled with the power of the technique itself, it is enough to defeat most Level 2 lower-tier disciples. But this is not enough. What I need to deal with is not a Level 2 lower tier, but an upper-tier disciple. Moreover, it is unpredictable and difficult to guard against. Su Yu calmed his heart and continued to practice. 3 days later, there were only 2 days left until the Institute's challenge arena. Whoosh! A nimble body like a spiral punched a spot on the tree with his right fist. Immediately after, with lightning speed, his right leg kicked the same spot, full of explosive power. But this was not enough. His left leg followed, continuing to attack the same spot. His left hand smashed the same spot. 2 punches and 2 kicks in a row, each with astonishing explosive power. The 4 attacks stacked on top of each other, airtight and airtight. There was no way to dodge them. Chapter 5. After a full 5 days of training, relying on his strong eyesight and physical foundation, he had finally cultivated to Stage 2 top class. He was only a step away from Stage 3. The power of Stage 3 was even more ferocious. It was said that when cultivated to the upper class, the punches and kicks could be continuous, suppressing the enemy to the point where they could not retaliate. However, Su Yu felt that he was still far from reaching Stage 3. He temporarily put Universal Stroke aside. Secret Scroll of 100 Feet Piercing Arrow. He did not have a bow and arrow with him, so he could not cultivate it. Then, all that was left was the cloud shadow that he had been looking forward to. He flipped open the scroll and read it carefully. Su Yu felt a headache coming on. He had only read a few hundred words, but he was already dizzy and confused. He could not understand what was going on, his mind a mess. Phew! What a difficult technique to comprehend. This requires one's level of comprehension. It seems that my level of comprehension is not high. Su Yu realized the helpless truth. However, Su Yu had always been stubborn. He would never give up on something he had set his mind on. I don't believe I can understand you. Rolling up his sleeves, Su Yu continued to read. In his pupils, 2 faintly discernible crystalline pupils were faintly discernible. 2 hours later, Su Yu, who was as motionless as a rock, suddenly fell to the ground and fell into a deep sleep. Inadvertently, he had activated the power of his crystalline pupils. 2 hours had passed in the outside world, but he had already been cultivating for a full 20 hours. His mind was exhausted, and he could not help but fall asleep. An hour later, he had an idea. He turned over and got up, once again concentrating on comprehending the technique. He was immersed in space-time acceleration. 2 hours later, he fell to the ground again. An hour later, he got up again and continued. This repeated for a full 2 days, 48 hours. It was all the same. Excluding the time spent sleeping and resting, he had actually cultivated for a total of 320 hours. That was a total of 13 days. He did not eat, drink, sleep, or rest for a full 13 days. At this moment, Su Yu's eyes were bloodshot and his head was dizzy. However, he had a silly smile on his face. Success! Although I have only comprehended the first stage, I have finally succeeded. Su Yu let out a long laugh. His perception was not high and could only be considered above average. However, hard work made up for it, and he had finally achieved something. Shwa! Su Yu bent his knees slightly and exerted force in his calves. His body was like a swallow soaring in the sky. He crossed a distance of 2 meters with a single step, like a horse stepping on a swallow. His body was as light as a swan feather, and he floated freely in the forest. His figure was like the wind, leaping through the forest like the shadow of a white cloud, graceful and agile, free and at ease. He was also like a drifting duckweed, startlingly glimpsed, drifting in the waves. Hey, young princess, look, what a handsome body technique. Just from the speed alone, it should be at the level of level 2 upper tier. A pretty girl in purple was slightly surprised. Beside him was a woman in a light yellow dress. She was petite and delicate, and her eyes were big and round. She was very cute. Her face was very delicate, as if it was carved bit by bit. Her skin was as white as snow, and she looked like a porcelain doll. Hearing those words, the cute little beauty blinked her big eyes and looked around, but there was no one there. The little beauty glared at the purple-clothed girl. Humph. Enough nonsense. Let's go into the mountains and hunt wild beasts for money. We can buy spirit elixirs to increase our blood energy and temper our bones. Damn, father, all my money is stuck, making me take the risk to enter the forest. I want to go on a hunger strike. The little beauty complained angrily. The purple-clothed girl giggled and turned around to instruct a 15 or 16-year-old young guard behind them. Li Minghai, pay attention to protect the young princess at all times. Yes. The young guard responded excitedly. When he glanced at the little beauty's back, his eyes flashed with a hidden passion. The little beauty turned around disdainfully and glared at him. Protect me? You? Humph. I only asked you to carry the prey. I don't need anyone to protect me. The Martial Arts Training Institute held arena challenges every half a month, attracting a lot of attention. If one had to compare it, it would probably be similar to the monthly examinations in schools on Earth, which were conducted once a month. Arriving at the arena, there were about 100 people scattered around, waiting at the side. They were all participants in the arena. Some were challenged, and some took the initiative to challenge. Who is Suyu? Among the crowd, a sweet and charming voice rang out. Suyu turned his head. An ugly girl in loose black clothing, with messy hair and a face full of pimples, was looking like a toad. She was about 15 years old and was looking left and right, searching for Suyu. In the area where she was, the crowd automatically made way for her. They were fearful of her and also hated her. You are the one who challenged me? Chinfeng. Suyu did not back down. He would have to face her sooner or later. The black-clothed girl was Chinfeng. Her eyes fell on Suyu, and her eyes lit up. She approached him, looking him up and down with a flirtatious expression. She nodded and smiled. Not bad, delicate and handsome, I like you. Unfortunately, I am not interested in that face of yours. Suyu stood with his arms crossed. He was secretly on guard against poison, but his words were not polite. Since they were enemies, there was no need to be polite. Hey, look at that kid. Is he looking for death? Chinfeng hates it when people call her ugly. Sure, lower your voice. Chinfeng is narrow-minded. Last year, the beautiful senior who was disfigured by her secretly said she was ugly. That was why Chinfeng challenged her and secretly attacked her. The most frightening thing is that this woman's poison technique is strange. Even if she is poisoned, she is unaware of it. When the poison flares up, the Institute cannot catch her, so she is still at large. This lad called Suyu is not well known. He must have secretly said that she was ugly, and now she knows that he is going to suffer. At this moment, a white-bearded referee slowly walked onto the arena and announced without expression, "The match begins!" Chinfeng did not show any anger. Instead, her smile deepened. However, coupled with her toad face, her smile looked vicious. Little brother, I will treat you well later. Every word was cold, vicious, and cold. It was still unknown who would win. Suyu thought to himself. First round, Gold student Li Mingho versus Silver student Su Senior. Li Mingho was at level 3 lower tier of the martial path. Su Sun was also at level 3 lower tier of the martial path. However, Li Mingho was a student of the same batch as Su Yu and had successfully broken through to level 3 lower tier of the martial path in just 1 year. As for Su Sun, he was an old silver student from the previous batch. It took him 2 years to break through to level 3 lower tier of the martial path. This was because Su Sen's qualifications were considered high among the silver students. This was the difference between gold and silver students, and also the difference in qualifications. Su Sen, you have the guts to challenge me. Li Mingho stood with his arms crossed, his eyes cold and disdainful. Su Sun stared with slightly red eyes, looking like he had a deep hatred for Li Mingho. He gnashed his teeth and said, Li Mingho, you and I are irreconcilable. Qianer and I were childhood sweethearts, but she was snatched away by you. If I don't take revenge, I swear I am not a man. Su Sun was a little too excited, to the point that he spoke of his unbearable past in public. Su Yu, who was below the arena, was moved. What a similar experience. Li Mingho laughed. You mean that little girlie Qian? Hee, she threw herself at me. Why should I snatch her away? Although I got tired of playing with her and got rid of her. I have to say that the girl's skills in bed were not bad. She was very exciting. Although Li Mingho was only 15 years old, as a son of a family, he had long mastered the art of playing with women. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for not having the ability to capture the heart of your sweetheart. Li Mingho sneered. It is not too late for you to pick up that piece of trash now. Maybe she will change her mind. Haha, I will kill you. Su Sen's blood was boiling, and he had lost his mind. Swift horizontal knife. Su Sun roared. His blood was like a rainbow, and it was shockingly powerful. A black Zamadeo, with an awe-inspiring knife style, swept toward Li Mingho's neck. His imposing manner was astonishing, and he was as fast as a swan. Su Yu watched with trepidation. If he were to face this knife head-on, there would be no chance of survival. Li Mingho sneered. As if he was taking a stroll in the park, he lightly shouted, Heartless falling flower! His palm moved nimbly, like the shadow of a graceful snake, coiling and floating. It was as fast as lightning, even faster than the Zamadeo. A layer of shadow flickered, and his palm wrapped around the back of the knife, snaking upwards. Immediately after, his 5 fingers closed like a crane's beak, fiercely pecking at Su Sen's wrist. Su Sun felt the pain, and the Zamadeo slipped out of his hand. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Li Mingho extended his palm forward and poked Su Sen's chest at a leisurely pace. Ah, puff! Su Sen let out a blood-curdling scream, as if he had been electrocuted. He flew backward, spitting out a mouthful of blood, and fell unconscious. Su Yu's pupils shrank. So strong. They are both at level 3 of the martial path, but Su Sun could not even block one move from Li Mingho. Su Yu was secretly shocked. Many of the silver students at the side were shocked beyond words. Su Sen is ranked 3rd among the silver students. Someone as strong as he was actually defeated. This was the difference between a gold student and a silver student. Not only was there a huge difference in talent, but there was also a huge difference in cultivation techniques. Heartless falling flower was a medium-level cultivation technique, while swift horizontal knife was a low-level cultivation technique. Comparing the two techniques, the difference in power was huge. Li Mingho walked down the stage with ease. As he walked past Su Sun, he took out his student number. Everyone had a student number to prove their identity in the Martial Arts Training Institute. However, Li Mingho's student number was light gold in color. Su Yu's was a dull silver gray. At this moment, the silver-white student number in Su Sen's arms suddenly dimmed. A ray of silver light flew into Li Mingho's number, and the pale gold color became slightly more intense. Seeing this, Li Mingho disdainfully spat on his face. Only this little bit of martial arts energy. Wasting my time. Martial arts energy was the standard of the Martial Arts Training Institute to measure a student's strength. Those with the least amount of martial arts energy, like Suyu, had a dull, silver-gray student number, indicating that his strength was the lowest. Those with the strongest martial arts energy, like Li Mingho, had a pale gold student number. In addition, the level of cultivation and qualifications could also affect the color of the student number. The only way for a silver student to become a gold student was to continuously fight and seize other people's martial arts energy to strengthen themselves. One day, when they reached the limit, they would obtain a gold student number and officially be promoted to a gold student. From then on, the special cultivation resources enjoyed by the gold students would be open to them. Every silver student dreamed of becoming a gold student. That was the goal they chased after. The crowd watched Li Mingho leave in awe, not daring to breathe too loudly. Following that, there were a few more matches, but no more gold students appeared. The 10th round, silver student Qin Feng versus silver student Zheng Tao. Chapter 6. Zheng Tao? Haha, I know. He is the pursuer of the pretty senior who was disfigured. He must have complained about Qin Feng in private, and she found out, so she challenged him. Zheng Tao is ranked in the top 100 among the silver students. He is around 98, only a few places lower than Qin Feng. He should not be too miserable. After all, he is also at level 2 upper tier. His abilities should not be too bad. The match begins. The referee announced indifferently. Zheng Tao was afraid and hateful. He clenched his teeth and roared, "Soul, dragon drill!" Zheng Tao's right leg suddenly exploded with power. Zheng Tao soared into the sky like a big bird. His left leg turned into a drill and pierced towards Qin Feng. Qin Feng laughed coldly and leaped back easily. Zheng Tao's kick missed. After his feet landed on the ground, he tapped the ground again and was about to attack again. But suddenly Zheng Tao foamed at the mouth. His body twitched, and his face turned from red to pale. His body stiffened, and he was unable to move. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Qin Feng advanced. Her face was filled with an evil smile. Her delicate right hand revealed 5 sharp nails. She clenched them into a ghostly claw and ruthlessly pierced into Zheng Tao's face. Then, with a slash, the nails slashed across Zheng Tao's face, causing blood and flesh to splatter everywhere. "Ah, my face!" 5 deep bloody grooves appeared on Zheng Tao's face. Every one of them was ferocious and shaped like a centipede. The audience gasped in shock. Zheng Tao has been destroyed. There is poison in those nails. Unless he can get a miraculous elixir, he will follow in the footsteps of that senior. Qin Feng is too strange. I still do not understand how Zheng Tao lost. Su Yu's eyes turned cold. What an evil woman. The referee creased his brows. According to the rules, students were not allowed to kill each other. But Qin Feng only injured but did not kill. She was walking on the edge of the rules, and the referee could not do anything to her. Looking at Qin Feng with disgust, the referee announced indifferently, "Zheng Tao has lost!" A faint, silvery white color floated out from Zheng Tao's student number plate and entered Qin Feng's student number plate. Her student number plate was pure silver without any impurities. It was only slightly weaker than Su Sen's brilliant, silvery white color. Among those at the same level, her student number plate was the brightest. This was the reason why she often challenged and rarely lost. After a few more rounds, the situation was definitely not as tragic and bloody as Qin Feng's. The last round, silver student Qin Feng versus silver student Su Yu. Everyone was stunned. What a pity, another unlucky guy. If I were him, I would immediately go up to the stage and admit defeat. I would have lost anyway. Why should I be killed by Qin Feng? Su Yu went up the stage, expressionlessly. Qin Feng smiled charmingly and said, "Big sister said that I will take good care of you." "Cut the crap," Su Yu shouted coldly. "Humph! Qin Feng, snorted coldly, and flew over. A layer of faint gray mist wrapped around her body. There was an intense poison that couldn't touch her body. Mandala dance. Qin Feng's body moved like the wind, closing in on Suyu quickly. Suyu was not afraid at all, and he brazenly faced him head-on. Idiot! Qin Feng's body is covered in poisonous fog. Don't get close to him. Below the stage, someone scolded him for being muddle-headed. Qin Feng pursed his lips and revealed a strange smile. She turned her body and rolled backward. She did not continue her attack and left a large, empty space. What a stupid brother! Don't you understand why Zheng Tao was suddenly poisoned? Qin Feng sneered. I will take good care of that face of yours. Hiss! I understand now. There is a layer of poison under Qin Feng's feet. Wherever she steps, there will be a poisonous gas. Anyone who trespasses will be poisoned instantly, foaming at the mouth and twitching all over. Qin Feng can do anything she wants to him. Suyu understood, but it was too late. He fell onto the ground that Qin Feng walked on and was quickly enveloped by the poisonous gas. But strangely, Suyu did not show any signs of being poisoned. Instead, he had a light smile on his face. His figure was like the wind, as elegant as the shadow of the clouds and as light as duckweed. He dashed forward and was within 10 feet of Qin Feng. The bystanders were shocked. How could he not be poisoned? My God, what kind of movement technique is that? Light and elegant, as if he was taking a stroll. He is only at level 2 entry realm, but his speed is not any weaker than upper tier. Qin Feng's malicious mockery froze and was replaced with shock. How is that possible? Don't tell me you brought a medicinal powder to neutralize the poisonous gas with you? Qin Feng's expression changed, but she immediately denied it. She would change to a different poisonous substance every time. How could Suyu know in advance and make preparations to neutralize the poison? Suyu replied to her with a pair of deep eyes that were as vast as the starry sky. He understood when he watched her fight with Zheng Tao. To deal with the strange and unpredictable poisonous substance, the key was to remember the opponent's footsteps. As long as he did not step on the area that the opponent walked on, he would not be poisoned. After all, the poisonous substance under the feet was limited, and the poisonous gas was only effective in a small area. Using his eyes to control time, even though Qin Feng's footsteps were fast and messy and not easy to remember, he was able to easily remember the areas that Qin Feng's footsteps had walked on. Finally, using the cloud-shadowed duckweed trace, he dodged and avoided those areas, easily approaching her. Universal stroke. Suyu shouted in his heart. A punch and a kick intertwined like a shadow and struck at her chest at the same time. Even though her body was surrounded by poisonous fog, the poisonous fog was constantly circulating, and there would occasionally be a gap between the fog and the fog. The gap would be his chance to strike. Qin Feng's expression changed, and she hurriedly used her arms to block. The punch caused Qin Feng to feel pain, and her arms were numb. She was filled with hatred and wanted to retaliate. However, a foot suddenly assaulted him, and Qin Feng's arm emitted a cracking sound. Panic arose in his heart. If his arm was broken, the possibility of him losing would increase greatly. But before she could react, another punch came. His fists and legs were connected without the slightest gap. It was airtight. This time, Qin Feng's arms were completely broken. Ah! Qin Feng let out a shrill scream. It was loud and clear and reverberated throughout the arena. But that was not the end. The last kick, a reverse kick. Pooh! Bang! Qin Feng could not take it anymore, and she spat out a mouthful of blood. She was sent flying like a rock and fell heavily onto the ground. Her mouth was full of blood, and she fainted. The audience took a closer look and gasped. Qin Feng's arms, which she used to protect her chest, were dented. Bone spurs with a hideous blood color pierced through her body. Explosive fracture. If there were no miraculous elixirs to reconnect the bones and blood energy channels, her arms would be crippled. The arena was silent for a moment. What a terrifying fist and kick technique! It was powerful and impenetrable. Who is he? To be able to defeat Qin Feng, he should not be a nobody. I heard the referee call him Su Yu. I've never heard of him before. Ah, Su Yu? Could he be the Su Yu who was abandoned by Jiang Xueqing, one of the three beauties of the Institute? What, it's him. Didn't I hear that his talent was mediocre and he could not keep his lover, so he threw himself into the arms of another man? But now, to be able to severely injure Qin Feng, he was one of the top 100 silver students. No matter what, he could not be described as mediocre. After all, there were more than 10,000 silver students. Looking at the miserable Qin Feng, the audience felt a chill in their hearts. They were secretly shocked by Su Yu's ruthlessness, but at the same time they were delighted. Qin Feng was a vicious and cruel woman. No one expected her to fail miserably and have her arms crippled. 2 words, serves you right. But the audience thought of a name and could not help but worry for Su Yu. The Silver King, Qin Feng's brother. Su Yu was doomed. The silver assessment would be held in 8 days, and there would be challenges. The Silver King, as the king of the silver students, had the authority to issue challenges. How could Su Yu face the strongest silver student, the Silver King? The referee looked at Su Yu and announced, "Silver student, Su Yu wins. Since it was your first challenge, I will let bygones be bygones. Next time, remember to hold back. Crippling Qin Feng could be a big or small matter." The referee hated Qin Feng's ruthlessness, so he went easy on Su Yu. Qin Feng's number plate dimmed, turning silver gray. Su Yu's number plate brightened, turning from a dull silver gray to a silver gray, just a little short of silver white. Oh, how did I suddenly get so much martial arts energy? Su Yu was surprised. None of the previous battles had so much martial arts energy. The referee let out a rare smile. If the challenger wins, he gets a quarter of the opponent's martial arts energy. If the challenger loses, he loses half of his martial arts energy to the challenged. You were challenged by Qin Feng, and she was the one who initiated the challenge. Since she lost, she naturally has to give you half of her martial arts energy. Su Yu was overjoyed. He had gotten so much in one go, saving him a lot of battles. Outside the arena, on a grassy slope, Jiang Xueqing could not hide the shock in her eyes. She wondered if her eyes were playing tricks on her. Was the figure standing on top of the arena really Su Yu? In the past, Su Yu was a mediocre person who could not break through to level 1. He might even be eliminated this year. But now, not only had Su Yu broken through to level 2, he had also fought someone of a higher level and defeated Qin Feng, the infamous silver fighter. Looking at Su Yu, Jiang Xueqing's chest tightened. She did not know why, but she did not want to see Su Yu become stronger. It's just Qin Feng. I can crush him with just one finger. Su Yu being able to win is nothing impressive. The handsome Qin Feng, who was standing beside Qin Feng, shook his head in disdain. Jiang Xueqing's uneasiness slowly faded. "Qing'er, don't worry. I spent a lot of money to buy a few spirit elixirs. I am confident that you can break through to level 3 in a short time. You will amaze the world during the silver assessment." Jiang Xueqing's beautiful eyes were filled with splendor. She was overjoyed. When she looked at Su Yu again, Jiang Xueqing's eyes were cold. She shook her head and thought to herself, dragons and snakes cannot coexist. Su Yu, we are destined to be from different worlds. My choice will not be wrong. Dragons and snakes cannot coexist. You, Su Yu, will never be worthy of me, Jiang Xueqing. The two of them left. Qin Feng inadvertently turned his head to look at Su Yu's figure. His eyes instantly turned cold and gloomy. He had brought Jiang Xueqing to pass by the arena by chance. He wanted Jiang Xueqing to witness Su Yu's tragic disfigurement with her own eyes and make her completely give up. But what she saw was Su Yu's amazing performance. For a moment, Jiang Xueqing's heart wavered. This Su Yu is growing too fast. The The silver student assessment is no longer able to eliminate him. Looks like I have to think of another way. Chen Feng's brother is the Silver King. With his help, 8 days later, Su Yu will be crippled. Chen Feng's eyes flashed with a cold smile. Chapter 7. Su Yu became famous in one battle. The news quickly spread throughout the Martial Arts Training Institute that a ruthless silver student had beaten the poisonous widow Chen Feng to a pulp. Aha, Brother Yu is back. Please take a seat. I will pour you some tea. Upon returning to the dormitory, Wu Song was at Su Yu's beck and call, serving him tea and complimenting Su Yu. Su Yu could see that his neck was covered in cold sweat. It looked like his defeat of Chen Feng had completely terrified Wu Song. Now that his abilities were higher, Su Yu could not be bothered with a weakling like him. Scram! Don't show up in front of me. Wu Song was not angry but overjoyed. Yes, 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 I will not disturb Brother Yu. Walking out the door, he wiped his sweat, his face full of joy. Phew! Luckily, Su Yu is not a vengeful person. Otherwise, with his ability and viciousness, I would not even be able to sleep in the corridors from now on. Su Yu sat quietly, deep in thought. I managed to get into the top 100 silver students and escape the danger of being eliminated. But Chen Feng is eyeing me like a tiger watching its prey. I cannot relax. Su Yu secretly clenched his teeth. He had no intention of staying with Jiang Xueqing, a ruthless woman, but Chen Feng was unwilling to let her go and had set her up multiple times. This enmity would be repaid twofold in the future. Hence, he had to increase his abilities, to protect himself, and to take revenge for what happened today. Chen Feng, just you wait. Su Yu secretly clenched his fists. Chen Feng had stolen his woman and wanted his life. If he did not take revenge, Su Yu would be a coward for the rest of his life. But Chen Feng's abilities and the power of his family were extremely powerful. Su Yu needed to work hard to increase his cultivation level. I, Su Yu, will amaze the world with a single brilliant feat. I must shine brightly in the silver assessment this time. Su Yu muttered to himself for a long time. He took a deep breath and set a shocking goal for himself. Although this decision was a little too ambitious, it was still not enough. But Su Yu had cut off all means of retreat and fought with his life on the line. Time waits for no man. Chen Feng had sensed that Su Yu was gradually growing and would not give him enough time. His only chance was to squeeze out all his potential and work hard to grow, reaching new heights before the next fatal blow. At the same time, if they stood out and became promising seedlings, they would be valued and protected by the students. They would not be useless silver students. The academy would not pay too much attention to them if they died or were crippled. Wu Song, for the next 8 days I will be going out. If anyone challenges me, you can accept them on my behalf. Su Yu prepared his rations, walked out, and went to the Training Institute's weapon cabinet first. To practice the secret scroll of 100 feet piercing arrow, he lacked a suitable bow and arrow. The weapon pavilion was a place where the academy provided free weapons to the students. However, it was the same as the suture depository. Every student could only choose a weapon once a year. If they wanted to choose a second weapon, they would have to pay for it. Su Yu had never chosen a weapon before, so he could choose one for free once, which saved him a lot of money. The silver students of the academy would receive 1 tael of silver every month for their living expenses. They would only be able to save a few copper coins and would not be able to pay for other expenses. When he entered, there were only a few people in the weapon pavilion. Su Yu glanced at them and discovered that the mainstream weapons were knives, swords, spears, and rods. They occupied the majority of the types and numbers. Su Yu walked all the way to the deepest part of the weapon pavilion, not knowing whether to laugh or cry when he found a few half-new bows with dust on them. Su Yu weighed them and chose a bow that was lighter and easier to pull. He was not good at training his physical body, so a bow that was too tight was not suitable for him. The power of a bow depended on many factors. First, the quality of the bow itself, including the material, elasticity, strength, and toughness. Second, the archer's arm strength determined the speed and range of the arrow. Third, the archer's eyesight. No matter how strong the archer's arm strength was, it would be useless if the arrow did not hit a vital point. On the other hand, if the archer's arm strength was weak, even though the speed of the arrow was not fast, it would hit a vital point. The power of one arrow would be greater than the power of several arrows from the former. Su Yu's arm strength was not good, but his eyesight was top-notch. The power of the bow in his hands might not be any weaker than that of the muscular man. Whoosh! Whoosh! Suddenly Su Yu's ears twitched. He heard the sound of something piercing through the air. Turning his head to look, he saw a graceful and beautiful lady in white standing in the empty training ground, practicing her archery. This training ground was specially prepared for archery students to test the power of their bows and arrows. Behind the lady in white was a man with a coarse face. He was holding a quiver in his hands, teaching her how to shoot arrows with a smile. "Ha! Miss Xia's archery skills are extraordinary. I can barely continue teaching you." The coarse man turned out to be the archery teacher. His words were obviously respectful. Su Yu had some impression of this person. In the Martial Arts Training Institute, there was a class that specialized in learning how to use weapons. He had seen this teacher from afar teaching students archery, but at that time his temper was unusually bad. He would often berate and scold stupid students. He was not as polite as he was now. Moreover, this teacher's surname was Jiang, and he was the brother of Jiang Zhisher. Thinking back to the day when Jiang Zhisher wanted to take credit in front of the Duke of Qin, ignoring the pain in his frail body, Su Yu was displeased. Without looking at them, Su Yu recalled the secret scroll of 100-feet piercing arrow in his mind. Rather than calling it a cultivation technique, it would be more accurate to call it archery knowledge. Hence, it was easy to comprehend. An hour later, Su Yu had passed through the turbulent flow of time. He had read for 10 hours, memorizing the knowledge thoroughly. After searching for a few normal iron arrows, Su Yu eagerly went to the archery field. He took a light breath and calmed himself. Su Yu squatted down, as steady as a boulder. This could prevent the recoil when shooting an arrow and increase the accuracy of the arrow. He pulled the bow with one hand and knocked the iron arrow with the other, concentrating all his strength in his arms. He held his breath and stared at the target 100 meters away. The essence of the secret scroll of 100-feet piercing arrow was that when shooting an arrow, one had to be one with the heavens and be highly focused, concentrating all of one's energy on the iron arrow. This process required many times to harmonize the blood in the body to achieve a stable state. Only then could one concentrate and shoot an arrow. Whoosh! Su Yu released his fingers. The iron arrow pierced through the air with a whoosh, turning into an afterimage and hitting the target 100 meters away. But Su Yu was not satisfied with the result. It only hit the edge of the target, still a distance away from the bullseye. The commotion attracted the attention of the white-clothed lady who was focused on archery and Teacher Jiang, who was teaching from the side. Teacher Jiang raised his thick black eyebrows. Where did this unruly kid come from? We are practicing archery here. What is the meaning of this? Su Yu was speechless. It was obvious that the white-clothed lady was of high status. In order to gain her favor, Teacher Jiang did not allow anyone to disturb their archery practice. But Su Yu was shooting at the target at the side and could not affect the white-clothed lady at all. What is the meaning of this? This is archery practice. If there are rules that forbid students from practicing here, I will leave immediately. Su Yu was calm and unhurried as he pulled another arrow. Teacher Jiang put down his quiver and quickly walked towards Su Yu, anger hidden in his eyes. Teacher Jiang, there is no need to be like this. Let us continue, the white-clothed lady said softly. Her voice was soft and light, very pleasing to the ears. As she spoke, she glanced at Su Yu's posture and felt strange. Is this your first time shooting? Su Yu was engrossed in archery practice and did not bother to respond. He nodded without lifting his head. Yes, my first time. The white-clothed lady smiled and nodded. To be able to hit a target 100 meters away on your first try, not bad. Teacher Jiang looked Suyu up and down, shaking his head as he laughed. Even the posture is difficult to grasp. You probably learned a little and came here to practice? That arrow hitting the target was mostly luck. The white-clothed lady did not comment. Suyu acted as if he did not hear. He had memorized all the points of the secret scroll of 100 feet piercing arrow. All he needed to do was to integrate them. He needed to practice continuously. The second arrow still hit the edge of the target, slightly closer to the bull's eye than before. The white-clothed lady was slightly stunned. With the opponent's unfamiliar posture, was it really luck for him to hit 2 arrows 100 meters away? The third arrow was a little closer. The fourth arrow was a little closer. The fifth arrow was a little closer. The white-clothed lady was shocked. If it was luck once or twice, how could it be luck 5 times? Moreover, the opponent's posture was becoming more and more practiced, gradually taking shape. Teacher Jiang's thick black eyebrows twitched, glaring at Suyu as he continued. Suyu was engrossed, but from the 5th arrow onwards, Suyu could no longer get close to the bull's eye, always shooting beyond the red bull's eye. Although he was becoming more and more skilled, for some unknown reason, he could no longer improve. He was always a distance away from the bull's eye. Instead, there were 2 times when he was distracted and did not grasp the accuracy, hitting the red bull's eye carelessly. The white-clothed lady secretly sighed, thinking that she had met an archery genius. Teacher Jiang laughed in surprise, secretly disdainful. Looks like it's another lecher. He knows that Miss Xia likes archery and often comes here to practice. Hence, he practiced half-baked and pretended to be a newbie to attract Miss Xia's attention. There are more than 1 or 2 such people. The white-clothed lady's watery eyes lightly glanced at Suyu, a tinge of helplessness and faint disgust flashing past. I'm going back. I'm not in a good mood. The white-clothed lady's interest waned, her steps light. As she passed by Suyu, she unconsciously glanced at the bow in his hand. She stopped in her tracks, her face filled with surprise. Let me see your bow. The white-clothed lady had a strange expression. Teacher Jiang looked over, also revealing a strange expression. Suyu tilted his head to take a look. It was just a casual glance, but he unexpectedly discovered that the person standing beside him was an extremely beautiful lady. She was untainted by even a speck of dust, her temperament tranquil, as if she was a celestial fairy walking in the mortal world. Noble and elegant. Any filth would melt in front of her. A celestial being. This was the only description Suyu could come up with. A lady that did not belong to the mortal world. She looked to be about 14 or 15 years old, similar to Suyu's age. Her snow-white eyes were clear and moving, like a snow lotus from the Tian Shan Mountains, blooming with a purity that did not belong to the mortal world in the cold wind. Looking at this pair of pure, beautiful eyes, Suyu's heart was filled with respect. Like a lotus, one could only look at it from afar but not play with it. Suyu did not hide his momentary absent-mindedness. His deep eyes were clear and natural. He smiled apologetically. Sorry for my rudeness. This is my bow. The celestial being had a tranquil expression, not minding his apology, smiling indifferently. She had seen too many similar situations, so she did not pay much attention to it. However, Suyu's magnanimity left a good impression on her. From the momentary surprise in his eyes, she could tell that this was the first time Suyu had seen her, and he was not a lecher who had planned to attract her attention. Taking the bow, the celestial being's snow-white eyes stared at it. Her jade-like hands gently stroked the bow. Very quickly, her eyes were filled with surprise. Chapter 8. Sir, when you took the bow, did no one tell you that it was an abandoned, defective bow? The celestial beauty could not help but ask in surprise. The bows on the table were actually defective. The quality of the materials, the bowstring, the accuracy, and so on had serious problems. They had been discarded to the side, ready to be disposed of. But this youth had used this bow to hit the target 100 meters away 5 times in a row. It was really strange. With a trace of doubt, the celestial beauty shot an arrow with this bow. In the end, her archery skills were not bad, but she had missed the target. A row of black lines appeared on Suyu's forehead. Which be asterisk starred place the defective goods there. Try using my bow. The white-clothed woman took down a fiery red bow hanging from her shoulder. The bow was made of good material. It was fiery red. From afar, it looked like a burning flame, like red jade. Holding it in his palm, a faint heat was transmitted to his palm. It was the bow itself and the residual warmth of the celestial beauty's hand. A good bow. Although he did not know how to appraise bows, his intuition told him that this bow was very good. With anticipation, he tried to draw the bow, but found that the bow did not require much arm strength. It was especially suitable for Suyu, whose body was not strong, or for women. He focused his mind and focused all of his energy. His crystalline pupils revolved, and he could see the red heart clearly from 100 meters away. Whoosh! A loud and clear sound pierced through the air, bringing with it a sharp sound, piercing through the archery training ground. Dong! An iron arrow had hit the bull's eye, and it was the center, the bull's eye the size of an eyeball. Shooting an arrow 100 meters away was nothing more than this. The celestial beauty showed an expression of "I knew it," and was immediately surprised. It is really the problem with the bow. In just an hour, you went from being ignorant to shooting an arrow 100 meters away. It is really surprising. Teacher Jiang was also shocked. However, he still felt that Suyu was a lecher. Perhaps he had long been an archery expert and was pretending to be a newcomer to win the favor of Miss Xia. But he could not deny that at the age of 14 or 15, he had the archery skill of shooting an arrow 100 meters away. He could be considered an archery genius. So you let out a sigh of relief. Shooting an arrow 100 meters away, he had done it. Thank you, Fairy. I will take my leave now. Suyu wanted to speed up his training, so he didn't have the time to care about anything else. So he returned the bow and arrow to her. Young Master Su, if you like this bow, please feel free to take it. The new bow is still being refined in the weapon pavilion, so there is no bow for you to choose from. The celestial being was generous, pursing her lips and smiling quietly. Suyu was startled. They had never met, but the celestial being had gifted him a precious bow. This bow was obviously not part of the weapon pavilion's collection. It was the personal possession of the celestial being. Suyu muttered to himself for a moment, then took the bow with both hands and thanked her sincerely. I borrowed your bow today, and I will definitely return it in the future. May I know where you live? I will definitely return it when the time comes. No need. This bow is for you. The celestial being smiled and left, leaving only a faint fragrance. Teacher Jiang could not help but sneer. Brat, know when to stop. This is the first time Miss Xia has given her personal belongings. You're not satisfied with what you have, and you even want to pay her a visit. Save it. She's not someone a low-level student like you can reach. Suyu smiled calmly. He was too lazy to explain the misunderstanding of others. Regardless of whether it was Attendant Jiang or Teacher Jiang, he hated both of them. Suyu carried the big bow and entered the back mountain where he often trained. But he did not stop there. Instead, he went deeper into the mountains. The Martial Arts Training Institute was built on the outskirts of the Twilight Mountains. One could enter the mountains through the back mountain. There were many wild beasts in the mountains. Even demonic beasts could appear. The so-called demonic beasts were wild beasts that lived deep in the mountains. After consuming natural treasures, they would be tempered by the medicinal power to become intelligent and powerful beasts. Not only were they more intelligent, but they also had powerful innate abilities. They were very dangerous. Suyu had 2 goals for entering the Twilight Mountains. First, he wanted to improve his abilities through actual combat. Second, he wanted to hunt wild beasts and demonic beasts to earn money to buy spirit elixirs that could strengthen his muscles and improve his blood energy. The first 3 levels of the 5 paths belonged to the body refining stage, which required the body to be strengthened to a certain degree. Spirit elixirs were very common body refining elixirs, refined from various rare materials. They were very precious. Low-grade spirit elixirs cost 100 taels of silver. The Training Institute only distributed 1 tael of silver every month. Excluding living expenses, there were only a few copper coins left. A child from a poor family like Su Yu did not have the ability to come into contact with spirit elixirs. On the other hand, the family disciples had the financial support of their families. 10,000 taels of silver was not a problem. As for the gold students, each of them could receive 100 taels of silver every month. They can sit comfortably at home and ask for spirit elixirs as soon as they open their mouths to train their bodies. But I have to enter the deep mountains and forests and fight with wild beasts and demonic beasts. Su Yu thought of his previous life. That was an era where people depended on their fathers. This world was no different. I don't believe that I can't catch up to you even if I work 10 times harder. Su Yu was not willing to admit defeat. Half a day later, Su Yu stepped into the twilight mountains. Hiss! A weak sound entered his ears. Su Yu was immediately on guard. He used his crystalline pupils to scan his surroundings. Suddenly, about 10 feet away from Su Yu's feet, a snake with a color similar to that of the fallen leaves slithered toward Su Yu silently. The snake had a triangular head, a scarlet tongue, and brownish-yellow eyes. It was the world-famous 7 steps poisonous snake. Su Yu's figure was like the wind, his legs like a whip. Whoosh! The 7 steps poisonous snake was kicked away like a rope. It crashed into a tree trunk and fainted. Su Yu dashed over and took out the knife he had prepared. He carefully removed the snake's gallbladder and soaked it in a wine pouch. He then deftly removed the snake's skin and poisonous fangs, carefully wrapping them up and storing the snake meat. The snake's gallbladder, skin, and poisonous fangs could all be sold for about 10 copper coins. The snake meat could be used as rations. 100 copper coins could be exchanged for 1 tael of silver. He had picked up 10 copper coins right after entering the mountains. His luck was not bad. For the next 5 days, Su Yu flew between the trees. As he flew, he was like the shadow of a cloud, agile and natural. He was also like a floating duckweed. His crystalline pupils revolved to the extreme, searching for any beast that could be sold for money along the way. As night fell, Su Yu hid in a cave beside a small lake. He lit a torch outside the cave to prevent wild beasts from barging in. 2 7 steps poisonous snake, 5 wild rabbits, 2 pheasants, 3 ground chickens, 2 pangolins, 1 wild wolf, 2 small wild boars, and 1 great golden eagle. Su Yu counted his gains over the past 5 days. He roughly estimated that he could sell them for 1,200 copper coins, which was about 12 taels of silver. Sure enough, the experience is rich. I earned the school's annual subsidy in just 5 days. Su Yu was very satisfied with his gains over the past 5 days. But what he was most satisfied with was the changes in his body. Tempering oneself is a shortcut to success. These words are indeed true. After 5 consecutive days of tireless pursuit, he had unknowingly broken through to level 2 upper tier of the martial path, not far from the peak. At the same time, universal stroke had been cultivated to stage 3 lower tier. Now he had accumulated 8 stacked attacks from his fists and legs. After cultivating to stage 3 upper tier, he could stack them 16 times. Cultivating to stage 3 top class, he could stack them endlessly. His fists and legs would attack endlessly until the enemy could no longer take it. Cloud Shadow had also made great progress. From lower tier to upper tier, the speed of his movement technique was comparable to level 2 peak. Of course, the 100 steps piercing arrow had been perfected. Within 100 steps, there was nothing that it could not hit. The exquisite swordsmanship was comparable to that of an expert archer. This was all thanks to Su Yu's eyesight. Another reason was that the fiery red bow was of extraordinary quality and was very handy to use. I am indebted to the celestial being. When I return this bow, I will definitely repay her. Su Yu gripped the warm, fiery red bow, his heart filled with gratitude. Rustle, the sound of the forest shaking, could be clearly heard. It was as if there was a giant creature shaking the forest. At the same time, a weak human voice could be heard. Su Yu's expression changed slightly. Could it be that someone was fighting with a powerful beast? With a flash of light in his eyes, Su Yu extinguished the flames and left in the dark. With the help of his pupils, the darkness was no different from daytime to him. Using the cloud shadow, he leaped through the forest like the shadow of a white cloud, drifting like duckweed. It was extremely mysterious. 3 minutes later, Su Yu flew to the top of a big tree and hid in the dense forest. Taking a closer look, Zhang Xian's expression changed. Below him was a fiery red python. It was so thick and strong that Su Yu gasped in shock. It was as thick as a water bucket. It was even stronger than Su Yu's body. Its huge head could probably swallow him in one bite. What shocked Su Yu the most was that the fiery red python's body was burning with flames. Everywhere it passed, the trees were all burned. It's a demonic beast. Su Yu's pupils shrank. How could a normal python be covered in flames? Only a demonic beast could do that. Although this demonic beast was only a level 1 demonic beast, its abilities were terrifying. Looking at its appearance, it was already half mature, comparable to a human level 3 upper tier. It was far from what Su Yu could handle. Fortunately, there were 3 people fighting the fiery, red python below. Among the 3, the purple-clothed girl was at level 3 lower tier. The petite girl in the light yellow dress and the youth in green were both at level 2 peak. The 3 of them worked together to trap the fiery red python. Hurry! Catch this fiery dragon, and we'll have money. We can sell it for 1,200 taels of silver. The petite girl in the light yellow dress was throwing flying needles in the distance. She was scared and excited, shouting loudly, 1,200 taels of silver? Su Yu was excited. That was 10 times what he had earned in 5 days. But what made Su Yu speechless was that their situation was not looking good. The purple-clothed girl and the youth guard were pale and physically exhausted. The fiery red python, which was the fiery dragon in Xiao Budian's mouth, was still as powerful as ever. If this continued, they might even lose their lives. After all, the fiery dragon was at level 3 upper tier, while the purple-clothed girl was only at level 3 lower tier. The youth and the petite girl in the light yellow dress were only at level 2 peak. Swoosh! The fiery dragon was slightly intelligent. It seemed to see that the 2 of them were physically exhausted. Its scarlet eyes flashed with cunning. After dodging the combined attack of the 3, its huge tail suddenly rose like a whip, violently lashing left and right. The earth-shattering force made Su Yu feel suffocated. The purple-clothed girl and the youth were physically exhausted and could not dodge in time. They immediately spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backward, crashing into the bushes and fainting. The fiery dragon was very cunning. It did not take the opportunity to swallow the 2 unconscious people. Instead, it opened its bloody mouth and pounced on the petite girl who was still standing, preventing her from escaping. The petite girl's excited expression froze. She was so scared that she turned around and ran, screaming, "Ah! Xiao Zi, save me, it's biting me." Chapter 9. The fire dragon headed straight for the petite young lady. In her panic, the petite young lady subconsciously took out a silvery white ball from her sleeves. Rumble, a thunderous sound suddenly exploded. Su Yu's eardrums were ringing, the blood in his body trembling. He was almost shaken by the sound. Following that, a strong energy exploded, causing the earth to tremble. Hiss! The fire dragon was enveloped by the explosion of the silvery white ball, letting out a mournful hiss. He saw that half of its head had been blown off, and it was a bloody mess. Large pieces of snake scales had peeled off 7 inches from its head, revealing a bloody mess. The intense pain stimulated the fire dragon, causing it to crazily twist its body and charge toward the petite young lady. Its bloody mouth was about to swallow the petite young lady whole. Su Yu secretly shook his head. The petite young lady's silvery white ball was extremely powerful. It was definitely an extremely expensive, life-saving treasure. Under normal circumstances, even a strong martial artist of level 3 peak of the martial path would have been killed. But the petite young lady was too flustered. The snake's heart was at its weakest point. If it had exploded there, it would have been dead. Seeing that the situation was critical, Su Yu took out his red bow. His pupils revolved to the extreme, aiming at the weakest point of the fire dragon. There was a wound where a piece of scales had fallen off. Su Yu suddenly shot the arrow. Hiss! The arrow hit the target, but it did not penetrate. Its flesh was too thick. The arrow only penetrated 7 inches of flesh, still a distance away from the heart. The fire dragon let out a mournful hiss. In pain, it angrily raised its head, looking at the human hiding at the top of the tree who had shot the arrow. "What are you looking at? Evil creature." Su Yu's heart trembled. This was a demonic beast of level 3 upper tier. He had no way of resisting it. Without another word, Su Yu shot another arrow. This arrow was extremely accurate, hitting the tip of the arrow that was inserted 7 inches into the snake's body. 2 consecutive arrows. Immediately, the arrow penetrated another 3 inches into the flesh, deeply into the heart. Roar! The fire dragon let out a sorrowful roar similar to a dragon's roar. It opened its mouth and spat out a large mouthful of black venom. Within the venom were pieces of teeth. Su Yu's expression changed, hurriedly turning to the back of the tree. Thump! He clearly felt that the tree trunk behind him had been pierced by something. When he looked back, the fire dragon snake was writhing on the ground in pain. It was gradually dying. After the time it took to drink a cup of tea, the fire dragon snake was motionless. Only then did he lightly jump down. The petite girl seemed to have been shaken by the shock wave and fainted on the spot. Su Yu was relieved. Without hesitation, he immediately removed the most valuable parts of the fire dragon, its gallbladder, poisonous fangs, and skin. After doing all that, Su Yu looked at the blunt dagger in his hand in surprise. The skin of the fire dragon snake was much harder than he had imagined. He couldn't help but rejoice. Fortunately, the petite girl used the silver ball to blast open the flesh 7 inches away. Otherwise, with his bow and arrow, he wouldn't have been able to shoot through the thick snakeskin. Su Yu got up and was about to leave when he suddenly heard a weak moan coming from behind him. He turned around and saw that it was the petite girl. Her face was extremely pale, and beads of sweat had appeared on her forehead. Her breathing was rapid, and her chest was rising and falling rapidly. Not good. She's poisoned. Su Yu examined her closely, and only then did he discover that a tooth, which was filled with black venom, had pierced through her clothes and into her chest. Just now, the fire dragon snake had retaliated before its death, shooting out a mouthful of venom filled with broken teeth. The petite girl had been injured by the shock wave and poisoned. Without hesitation, Su Yu untied the petite girl's clothes and examined her closely. Only then did he realize that the petite girl was as beautiful as a porcelain doll. Her skin was fair, her facial features were charming, and she was petite and exquisite. She was like a cute fairy carved out of ivory. He had to undress a cute fairy. Would she be angry when she woke up? Su Yu wondered. Don't think so much. Saving her is more important. Su Yu quickly untied the petite girl's light yellow dress, revealing a tight-fitting white silk didou. Her snow-white shoulders and flat belly were all revealed. Under the silk didou, there were 2 soft buns that had just begun to take shape. They propped up the doo-doo into an alluring arc. On the right side of the buns, there was a fine tooth that had pierced through the doo-doo. That poisonous tooth had pierced into her right breast. Su Yu's mouth twitched. This position is really speechless. Even someone like Su Yu felt a little unnatural when he tried to save an unconscious girl's chest. But time was of the essence, and he could not care so much. He lifted up a small piece of the doo-doo, and the snow-white rabbit with its red nose jumped out. It stood proudly, as if it was provoking Su Yu. Su Yu's eyes were clear. His hand was as fast as lightning as he carefully removed the tooth that had pierced into her flesh. Luckily, the wound at the location of the poison was wide, and there was no need to cut through the skin. Otherwise, it would have left a permanent scar on her right breast. Su Yu analyzed quickly, nodding his head. He then squatted down and opened his mouth to suck in the petite girl's warm breasts, as well as her pink cherry. While she was unconscious, her chest was enveloped by the moist warmth. The petite girl's body trembled, and she let out a moan. Whoosh! Su Yu's mind was clear. He sucked hard, sucking out a mouthful of poisonous blood. He spat it out before it entered the blood vessels in his mouth. Then he lowered his head and started sucking again. 1 mouthful, 2 mouthfuls, 3 mouthfuls. Su Yu only stopped when the blood he sucked out was bright red. At that moment, his mouth was slightly numb. A small amount of poison had entered the blood vessels in his mouth. But it was all worth it. The petite girl's breathing had stabilized. She had only fallen into a coma, and her life was not in danger. He squatted down and covered the petite girl's clothes. Su Yu's face turned red as he took a quick glance. After sucking many times, the petite girl's proud pink breasts had unknowingly become firm. Su Yu shyly covered the petite girl's clothes and immediately left. He did not think that saving a girl in such a way would earn her gratitude. He would most likely be treated as a pervert. Being a thief might even put his life in danger. That purple-robed girl was a level 3 lower tier. What are you doing? Just as Su Yu was about to leave, the young guard stood up shakily. He suddenly noticed a strange man sneaking around. At the same time, the fire dragon they had surrounded had its skin stripped away. The young guard was immediately enraged. Which thief stole our spoils of war? While he was unconscious, he heard the sound of thunder. He knew that the young princess had used her trump card to kill the fire dragon. But when he woke up, he found the young princess unconscious and the precious materials of the fire dragon stolen. Su Yu did not look back. He cautiously tore off a piece of cloth and covered his face. Without another word, he left in a flash. Unexpectedly, a weak poison had taken effect. His body was not as nimble as before, and he could not use cloud shadow smoothly. Where do you think you're going? Taking advantage of the opportunity, the level 2 peak youth chased after him. Su Yu turned back and said coldly, "Humph. I saved you. Why aren't you checking on your comrades?" The young guard was furious. "Audacious thief, not only did you injure our master and steal our prey, you are also full of lies. How could you possibly kill the fire dragon with your level 2 upper tier of the martial path? You were clearly trying to steal our treasure. Take this, ferocious tiger fist." The young guard leaped into the air like a ferocious tiger descending the mountain. Its power was so strong that it was a middle-grade cultivation technique. Compared to Su Yu's universal stroke, it was a whole level higher. Su Yu was furious. "You can't appreciate my kindness." Universal stroke. Su Yu's body moved agilely. His fists and legs were in perfect sync as he continuously counterattacked. A punch and a kick intertwined with each other, and with the force of a crisscrossing, they simultaneously struck the opponent's chest. Being hit by a punch and a kick at the same time, the young guard cried out in pain. His ferocious tiger descending the mountain aura instantly crumbled. But before he could react, another punch landed on the same spot. The young guard was shocked and furious, his hands guarding his chest. As long as the opponent's attack stopped, he could immediately counterattack. But the opponent's punches and kicks were intertwined endlessly, landing on the same spot again and again, until the final blow, a leg streaked across the air, violently hitting both of his arms. Ah! The young guard could no longer hold on. His arms were in pain, and his body flew backward, crashing 5 meters away. His eyes were filled with shock. His opponent was merely a level 2 upper tier, but he was defeated. That strange punching and kicking technique was clearly a low-grade technique, but it had the power to suppress him. Su Yu was able to defeat him largely because the young guard had fought a great battle and consumed a lot of his energy. In addition, he had just awakened and could not unleash his full strength. After sending him flying with a kick, Su Yu immediately used Cloud Shadow. Like the shadow of a white cloud or duckweed floating in the sea, he disappeared into the sea of trees. Su Yu had no choice but to leave because the most powerful purple-robed young lady had awakened. Li Minghai, what happened? The purple-robed young lady covered her dizzy head and stood up shakily. She only had time to see someone send Li Minghai flying and escape in a hurry. Li Minghai's expression was ugly, and he told her the story with added details. The purple-robed young lady was shocked, but she was not concerned about the fire dragon, but about the young princess. Pouncing forward, the purple-robed young lady examined the young princess and heaved a sigh of relief after confirming that she was unharmed. But the meticulous young lady noticed that the young princess's clothes were a little untidy, and the bloodstain on her chest was clearly visible. Finally, there were a few mouthfuls of dark red blood at the young princess's side, as well as the fang of a poisonous snake. The purple-robed young lady seemed to have thought of something, and her face turned pale. She said in a low voice, "Li Minghai, retreat for now." After he left, the purple-robed young lady untied the young princess's clothes and saw the wound of the poisonous fang. The remaining blackened skin was a sign of poisoning. Fortunately, the poisonous blood had been removed, and there was no major problem. But what made her angry and embarrassed was that the young princess's snow-white cheeks were still flushed, and her breathing was light. That pink cherry was still firm and proud. The young princess's legs were also involuntarily clamped together in her unconsciousness. Her mind was in chaos. She instantly understood what had happened to the young princess. With anger, the purple-robed young lady turned her head and coldly shouted, "Elder Qin, why didn't you stop him?" Swish! With the sound of clothes fluttering, a shriveled old man appeared out of thin air, his expression dull. This person's abilities were unimaginably terrifying. He was the expert who had been secretly protecting the young princess. Chapter 10. Hearing this, Senior Qin's sluggish face broke into a smile, because he was saving the young princess, not harming her. According to our agreement, I will only protect her and will not interfere. Furthermore, if I were to do it myself, I could only use such an indecent method to extract the poison. Could it be that you wish for this bag of old bones to touch the young princess's precious body? Senior Qin laughed, as usual. The purple-robed lady had no choice but to clench her teeth. Then, did you remember that person's appearance? Senior Qin shook his head. No, that kid was agile. My angle was not good, so I only saw his back and the masked figure. The purple-robed lady was furious, her eyes filled with worry. This is bad. The Duke is going to be furious. Returning to the outside world, Su Yu arrived at the Xinyu prefecture. With a glint in his eyes, he covered his face with a veil and came to a dark alley. When he was at the Martial Arts Training Institute, he had heard that there were black merchants who specialized in collecting unknown materials. The fire dragon's material was extremely valuable and could definitely be sold for a good price. But he understood that if he were to openly sell these materials, he would be in trouble. Just because the purple-robed lady was a level 3 of the martial path, he could not expose himself. "Old man, do you want the material?" So you saw an old man with a toad, smoking pipe, deep in the alley. He approached him and asked. The old man rolled his eyes. "You have found the wrong person. Black goods. Deal with it at your convenience. Suyu had a faint smile. He understood that the old man was being cautious, so he spoke bluntly and took out a poisonous fang of the fire dragon. The old man's eyes glowed. Demonic, beast material! He was in disbelief. The youth in front of him was only a level 2. How could he kill a level 3 demonic beast? But thinking about the black goods, he understood that they had come from an illegal source. Follow me. The old man with the smoking pipe opened a small, inconspicuous door and brought Suyu into a hidden courtyard. This person had been buying black goods for a long time, so Suyu was not afraid that he had ulterior motives. Is it really a fire dragon snake? The old man with the smoking pipe looked at the 20-meter-long snake skin with excitement. I'll give you 50 taels of silver for the gallbladder, 100 taels of silver for the poisonous fangs, and 500 taels of silver for the snakeskin. That's a total of 650 taels of silver. The old man with the smoking pipe calculated for a while and then quoted a price. Suyu sneered and said, Old man, it's broad daylight, yet you are so black-hearted. Aren't you afraid of being struck by lightning? 1,200 taels of materials, and you're only giving 650 taels? If that is the case, then I will look for another shop. You are not the only shop in the Xinyu prefecture that dares to accept illegal goods. The old man with the smoking pipe was embarrassed. It turned out to be a little guy who knew his stuff. 900 taels. Do you want to sell it or not? The old man gave a market price. Suyu pondered for a moment. Compared to 1,200 taels of silver, it had depreciated by a quarter. It was not worth it. But in the black market, this was the price. Fine, but you must give me some of that snakeskin, as I want to make a body armor. Suyu's eyes flickered with shrewdness as he tried to bargain with him. The old man with the smoking pipe shook his head like a rattledrum. No way, no way! I'm at a loss. Suyu laughed. How about I buy a few spirit elixirs from you? That way, you won't be at a loss. The spirit elixirs in the hands of the black market were 10% cheaper than the market price. A low-grade spirit elixir would cost 100 taels of silver in the market, but here it was only 90 taels of silver. They were all goods that could not be seen in public. Among the silver students, there were often people who came here to buy cheap spirit elixirs. The eyes of the old man with the smoking pipe shone brightly. How many do you want? 3 low-grade elixirs and 1 medium-grade elixir. So you said, a medium-grade spirit elixir cost 500 taels of silver in the outside world. But here he only needed 450 taels of silver. Adding up the 4 elixirs, it was exactly 900 taels of silver. Ha! All right, deal. The old man with the smoking pipe readily took out 2 jade bottles, each containing a low-grade and medium-grade elixir. After confirming that there was no mistake, Suyu immediately took a piece of snake skin and left. Before he left, the eyes of the old man with the smoking pipe shone brightly, and he stuffed a token into Suyu's hands. Hee, young lad, I like straightforward friends like you. Take this item and go to the biggest Donglin craftsman shop in the market and look for Master Zhangzhe. He will make a perfect inner armor for you. Consider it an extra reward from me. If you have any high-grade goods next time, remember to send it to me. The old man with the smoking pipe closed the door with a smile. Suyu's eyes flashed. When he reached the end of the street, he threw away the token. After that, he pulled off his veil and disappeared. 2 hours later, the old man with the smoking pipe happily took inventory of the fire dragon snake. But at this moment, clang, the door was suddenly kicked open. 20 murderous soldiers in black armor rushed in. Each of them had reached the frightening realm of level 5. The 20 people stood respectfully on both sides of the door, as if they were welcoming an important person. The chest of the soldiers in black armor was engraved with a totem of an eagle. This totem could only be owned by members of the royal family, and it was the symbol of the royal family. And in the Xinyu prefecture, there was only one person who had the right to bestow a totem on the armor of the soldiers: the Duke of Xinyu. the most powerful person in the Xinyu prefecture. Amidst the respectful greetings of the many soldiers in black armor, a handsome but dignified man entered with a gloomy expression, his hands clasped behind his back. He saw the fiery, red, snake skin on the ground. "Is this the item?" The middle-aged man turned his head to look at the purple-clothed young lady behind him. Beside the purple-clothed young lady was a beautiful young lady in a light yellow dress. Her eyes were misty with tears, and her eyes were red and swollen. She could not stop sobbing, as if she had suffered a great injustice. Hearing this, the beautiful young lady was the first to raise her head. When she saw it, her eyes were spitting fire, and she angrily said, "That's it. That damned bastard. Thief. He really sold it on the black market." "Who sold it? Where is the person?" The middle-aged man was not angry, but his terrifying aura suppressed the old man with the smoking pipe, causing his face to turn pale. His knees went soft, and his eyes were filled with fear and shock. He could not help but kneel and kowtow. "Duke, spare my life! I did not know that this item was related to the Duke's palace. I deserve to die! I deserve to die!" The middle-aged man stood with his hands clasped behind his back. His expression was calm, but his eyes were burning with anger. "Answer me. Who sold it to you? Where is the person?" The old man with the smoking pipe hurriedly said, "Duke, it was a young man. He was masked, and I did not see him clearly." Suddenly, the trembling old man remembered something. As if he had found a life-saving straw, he hurriedly said, "That's right, I gave him a token. Maybe he went to the Donglin shop to make leather armor." The old man with the smoking pipe had an idea. He had given Suyu a token. "Immediately seal the Donglin shop. Take this person away and continue to interrogate him." The Duke of Xianyu's eyes were burning with anger. His daughter, who was unconscious, had been so disrespected. As a father, how could he not be furious? Even though he understood that the other party had saved his daughter out of goodwill, this matter concerned his daughter's chastity. He had to capture the culprit and give his daughter an explanation. The black iron soldiers marched to Dong Lin's shop in a mighty wave and seized everything. "Duke, this person did not come here," a subordinate reported. Not long after, another subordinate came back with a token. "Duke, the token was found in the corner of the alley. The culprit might have discarded it out of caution." The Duke of Xianyu's expression was ugly. He angrily slammed the table. "Cunning kid!" First, he had sold the goods at the black market. Even so, he had not forgotten to cover his face. Then he had cunningly discarded the token to prevent the Duke of Xianyu from finding his face at the Donglin shop. This person was very cunning. He had hidden himself well, and there was no way to trace him. Now, there were only two things that were known. First, his martial arts were not bad. Second, judging from the dead body of the fire dragon, his archery skills were superb, and he had the ability to shoot arrows in rapid succession. Immediately investigate all the young geniuses with superb archery skills. The Duke of Xianyu glared angrily. He would not rest until he had achieved his goal. The little beauty, who was the young princess of Xianyu, had her eyes red and swollen. She fiercely clenched her teeth. "I want to catch that pervert. Thief! I want to bite him to death. How dare he do that to me? I don't want to live anymore." In a tea house not far from the Donglin shop, Suyu had already changed into a clean robe. It was completely different from his attire in the Sunset Mountains. Even if Li Minghai were to stand in front of him, he might not be able to identify him. He leaned against the railing, quietly sipping his tea as he waited. He just wanted to see who the two women and the man were. He wanted to see if they could easily track down the old man with the smoking pipe and follow him to Dong Lin's shop. That way, he could secretly confirm whether or not he had provoked some terrifying force, so that he wouldn't have to worry about it later. However, what he saw made him suck in a breath of cold air. "Xian, you, County, Duke." Su Yu's scalp went numb. His forehead was covered in cold sweat. The two women and the man were actually related to the Duke of Xianyu. To alarm the Duke of Xianyu, the weeping little beauty was undoubtedly a relative of the Duke of Xianyu. It was highly likely that she was the Duke of Xianyu's princess. Thinking about how he had sucked the right breast of the young princess of Xianyu, Su Yu felt like killing himself. Su Yu regretted his decision to save her. Whether it was in his previous life or this one, people who saved others with good intentions did not have a good ending. Forget it. It will be difficult for the other party to find out my identity. Let it be a misunderstanding. In the future, the chances of me being exposed are low. Su Yu sighed and returned to the training institute, but he did not return to his dormitory. Instead, he entered the training institute's training room. The training room was free of charge. To a poor student like Su Yu, it was a rare opportunity. However, the cultivation rooms were also divided into grades. There were high and low grades. The upper-class training rooms had a better environment. There was a spiritual pool inside. Training in the spiritual pool would improve one's blood flow and temper one's body. Unfortunately, there were only 10 of them. Only the rumored 10 demon students and people with special privileges could occupy them. Poor people like Su Yu could only look on and lament. "Creak, oh, it's you? Are you training?" A sweet voice could be heard. Su Yu turned his head and cupped his hands in gratitude. "Greetings, fairy." Su Yu was curious. Could the celestial being be a student of the training institute? Moreover, she had come out of the upper-class training room. Chapter 11. Thinking back to the fiery bow in his hand, it should be the latter. With high privileges, he was either very rich or very noble. The celestial beauty's hair was wet, as if she had just come out of a bath. Her fragrance was faint, and her fair cheeks were like a lotus after the rain. She was like a pearl in the dark night, dreamy and beautiful. Her long robe stuck tightly to her clothes in the fog, outlining her graceful figure and the contours of her exquisite body. Through the moisture, a few patches of dark red could be vaguely seen on her bulging breasts. That was the red undergarment she wore. It was squeezed by her towering breasts, and the moisture had seeped into it. The celestial beauty seemed to be aware of it. Her beautiful face was flushed red, like the sunset glow reflecting the snow, beautiful beyond compare. She gently lifted her hand to cover her chest. When she moved it away, the moisture evaporated, and the red undergarment was completely hidden. "Go in, there's no one here now." The celestial beauty gently waved her hand, her clear eyes smiling as she invited Su Yu in. Su Yu was startled. "This is a top-class training room. I'm a silver student. I'm afraid it would be difficult for me to enter." "It's okay, I'll allow it." The celestial beauty calmly smiled, took light steps, and floated away. Su Yu was not a pedantic person. He thanked her from afar and flashed into the room. A small, dark green pond emitted a white mist. It looked like an emerald jade, quietly lying in the center of the cultivation room. The air was filled with the fragrance of the celestial beauty. Su Yu was about to take off his clothes and enter the pool. Suddenly, a gust of wind came from behind, so fast that Su Yu could not react. He only felt his vision blur, as if someone had taken something from the side of the pool. At the critical moment, Su Yu activated his eyes, causing his body to fall into accelerated time. As a result, he could clearly see the situation outside. It was the celestial beauty who had left and returned. Her face was flushed, and her eyes looked like they were about to burst into tears. She bit her lips and rushed in, grabbing a piece of red cloth embroidered with mandarin ducks. That was none other than the undergarment she had just replaced, but had forgotten to pack up. She had entered and exited in a flash. Ordinary people would not have been able to capture the situation and would only think it was a gust of wind. Su Yu had an awkward expression on his face. He pretended that nothing had happened and closed the stone door. The celestial being who had escaped outside had a dreamy face that was as red as the sunset in the sky. She lowered her head and walked quickly. Her jade-like hands held the doo-doo in her sleeves and trembled slightly. Her heart was beating rapidly. With his strength, he shouldn't have seen it. After taking off his clothes and entering the pool, Su-yu was a little shocked. The abilities of the celestial being are so strong. Just based on speed alone, it was far beyond my level. Could it be that, in addition to his special status, his cultivation is also very high? Filled with doubts, Su-yu began his training. As his entire body submerged in the dark green water, an indescribable sense of comfort flowed through every inch of his muscles. He could almost feel that his body was slowly improving. As expected of a high-grade cultivation room, the effect is truly amazing. Su-yu was secretly surprised. He immediately took out the spirit elixir and began to cultivate crazily with the help of the spiritual pool. There were only 3 days left until the silver student assessment. He had to make the best use of his time to improve his strength. A day passed, and the secret chamber was completely silent. 2 days passed, and there were occasional sounds of fists and kicks in the secret chamber. 3 days passed, and a cool breeze swirled in the secret chamber. There seemed to be a figure floating back and forth, and the sound of clothes fluttering could be heard. Phew! The effect of a high-grade cultivation room is too good. Su-yu felt the surging energy in his body with satisfaction. With the help of 3 low-grade spirit elixirs, 1 middle-grade spirit elixir, and the spiritual liquid pool, he broke through to level 2 peak in one fell swoop. There was only a fine line between him and level 3. At the same time, Netherworld Blue Falls had been cultivated to stage 3 upper class, and his fists and kicks could strike 16 times in a row. There were very few people who could withstand 16 consecutive bursts. Once cultivated to stage 3 top class, his fists and kicks could strike infinitely. At that time, who could resist? The cloud shadow movement technique had also made great progress, and had been cultivated to stage 1 top class. Now, Su-yu could easily cross 3 meters in one step. His body was as light as a swan, and he flew like a swallow. His body was graceful and agile, and his speed was extremely fast, comparable to a strong level 3 lower tier. Brother Feng, tomorrow is the silver assessment. I want a high-grade cultivation room. Outside the cultivation room, a pair of immortal lovers slowly walked in. The woman was as beautiful as a fox fairy, ethereal and delicate, as beautiful as a fairy. Leaning against the side of the handsome man, the fox fairy had a hint of coquettishness in her voice. Qin Feng was very satisfied with Jiang Xueqing's dependence, but he was a little embarrassed. The Martial Arts Training Institute had a high status, and did not buy into the Duke's account. Even he did not have the qualifications to own a high-grade cultivation room. Qing'er, wait a moment. The light in this high-grade secret room is on, which means that the person inside has finished his cultivation and will come out soon. Can I ask him? Qin Feng tidied his clothes, believing that with his status as the junior duke, the other party would more or less accept him. Jiang Xueqing's heart was filled with joy. She felt that with Qin Feng around, any difficulties would be easily solved. Thinking back to the year she spent with Su-yu, she could not help but secretly shake her head. If she had known Qin Feng earlier, with his huge financial and material support, she might have become a gold student by now. She was really silly in the past. Jiang Xueqing secretly sighed. Creak, the door opened, and a young man with water vapor stepped out of it. Qin Feng smiled like a spring breeze, cupping his hands respectfully. Your Excellency, I am Qin Feng. My father is the Duke of Qin. I wonder if you would do me the honor of letting me use the secret room? Su-yu had just come out, but hearing the voice, he turned around and could not help but reveal a strange expression. Oh, I'm sorry, this belongs to a friend. I do not have the right to lend it out, Su-yu calmly replied, closing the stone door and brushing past them. He only nodded his chin at Jiang Xueqing, then left expressionlessly. From start to finish, he did not look her in the eye. Even when he swept his gaze past her, there was no reluctance, as if she was a stranger. The two of them froze on the spot. Qin Feng came back to his senses, shocked and angry. He was shocked that a mere poor lad could enter a high-grade cultivation room that even he could not enter. How could Su Yu enter? He was angry that he had actually asked this poor lad for help. Jiang Xueqing was stunned. Since when did Su Yu have the qualifications to enter a high-grade cultivation room? Qing'er, don't worry, his good days will not last long. Tomorrow is the silver assessment. I'll teach him a lesson. Qin Feng's eyes flashed with coldness. Thinking of the silver assessment, Jiang Xueqing looked away. With Qin Feng's help, she had already broken through to level 3 lower tier, and there was hope that she could compete with the Silver King, Chen Tianan. In a few months, she could enter the ranks of the gold students and become someone above everyone else. As for Su Yu, his talent was average. Even if he had broken through to level 2, it would be difficult for him to improve. At most, he could only return to the countryside and become a high-level martial artist or hunter, living a mediocre life for the rest of his life. Compared to a girl like her, who was destined to be a genius, they were people from 2 different worlds. Su Yu, it is not that I am cruel, but you are too useless, unable to give me what I want. Jiang Xueqing looked away coldly, her heart determined that the path she had chosen was not wrong. Su Yu returned to the dormitory, and Wu Song immediately followed him like a dog. He realized that he could no longer see through Su Yu's cultivation level. Brother Yu, you're back. Haha, these are the challenge letters you have received in the past 8 days. Wu Song's face was full of respect as he took out a stack of 5 challenge letters. Su Yu had suddenly emerged as a new force, defeating Qin Feng and entering the top 100 silver students. Naturally, there were many silver students who were unconvinced and challenged him. Su Yu could not be bothered with them, but there was one letter that made him raise his eyebrows. This was a challenge letter written in blood. There were only a few lines of words on it. On the day of the silver assessment, come on stage and accept your death. Silver King Chen Tianan. Chen Tianan? Su Yu's eyes were cold. Chen Tianan, the strongest silver student, the Silver King. Qin Feng's brother, a vengeful person. Su Yu had injured Qin Feng, so it was reasonable for Chen Tianan to seek revenge. Wu Song carefully observed Su Yu's expression and reminded him, Brother Yu, why don't you apply for leave from the Institute to avoid the Silver King? No need. Su Yu replied in ink on the challenge letter. The Silver King will change owners tomorrow. Wu Song gasped. Su Yu had the guts to be so arrogant. The next morning, for countless silver students, it was the most uneasy day of the day. The silver assessment would eliminate half of the unqualified silver students, a total of 5,000 people, and they would be sent back to their hometowns. This meant that they would basically be cut off from the path of martial arts. From then on, they would become ordinary people, either a powerful hunter in a remote village or a small instructor, spending the rest of their lives in mediocrity. Su Yu arrived at the assessment ground early and silently sat in the audience stand. There weren't many people who recognized him. Therefore, he was unknown and no one cared about him. Look, the 3rd and 2nd silver students are here. Under the excited and respectful gazes of countless silver students, a man and a woman, 2 silver students, under the gazes of tens of thousands of people, were like dazzling stars standing at the pinnacle. Su Yu had seen the 3rd-ranked silver student, Su Senator, 8 days ago. He had fought with the gold student, Li Mingho, and was defeated in one move. His childhood sweetheart, Li Qian, had fallen in love with someone else. For the sake of her future, she had abandoned Su Sin and willingly become Li Mingho's plaything. After suffering from life's greatest tragedy, Su Sen's condition did not look good, somewhat dispirited and listless. Beside him was the 2nd female expert on the silver ranking, Xian Lifei. She was at the lower tier of the Thoid Heaven. She had a cheeky appearance and a sweet face. Her smiling eyes flashed with craftiness. Although she was only 14 years old, her body was exceptionally exquisite and quite attractive. Xian Leafy has a great chance of winning the title of Silver King. Last year in the silver assessment, she lost to Qin Tianan by one move. It is said that she has been training hard this year and is about to break through to level 3 upper tier. I don't think there's much hope. Qin Tianan's ghost technique is mysterious and powerful, almost comparable to a top-notch technique. There are few opponents at the same level as him. The appearance of the two people caused a lot of noise. After a moment of silence, the crowd suddenly moved. Look, one of the three beauties, Jiang Xueqing, has appeared, and the junior duke next to her, Qin Feng. The crowd was boiling. Chapter 12. I'm so envious of Jiang Xueqing. If only I could be favored by the junior duke, then I would be able to obtain training resources. Yeah, look at Jiang Xueqing. 2 months ago, she was only at level 2 lower tier, but now she's already at level 3 lower tier. Furthermore, she probably has a medium-level technique given to her by the junior duke. Without a doubt, she's a strong dark horse in the fight for the Silver King title. The two girls said with jealousy, "Dream on. You'll need to have the looks first." The male student at the side mocked. "Humph, we're not bad-looking. It's just that Jiang Xueqing is too beautiful." The girl was unconvinced. The male student laughed. His gaze on Jiang Xueqing from afar was filled with adoration, but also deep regret. She is indeed too beautiful. If a woman like her does not have a strong background and ability, the outcome of being with her would be the same as Su Yu, heartlessly abandoned. How sad. Hearing this, the two girls were sympathetic. "Sai, pity Su Yu. I heard that in order to win back Jiang Xueqing's heart, he knelt down and begged her. After being heartlessly rejected, he attempted suicide by jumping into the lake." The male student said with disdain, "What's there to sympathize with? He's inferior. He deserves to have his woman stolen." I'm interested in hearing that Su Yu defeated Qin Feng. If possible, he might meet Jiang Xueqing in the silver assessment. I really want to know how Su Yu would feel if he were to be defeated by Jiang Xueqing. After all, Jiang Xueqing's strength was bestowed upon her by the man who stole her. I think it must be very humiliating. The two girls secretly sighed. Poor Su Yu, that kind of situation is probably the last thing he wants to see. I wonder if he would be able to bear to meet Jiang Xueqing. The appearance of Jiang Xueqing and Qin Feng shocked the crowd. Su Yu listened to the discussions about him, smiling without saying a word. He did not like Jiang Xueqing at all. In his previous life, there were a lot of beautiful women who were willing to sleep with whoever had the most money. As a white-collar manager who went in and out of high-class places, there were countless women who threw themselves at him. He had slept with and played with countless women. What was so special about it? Although Jiang Xueqing and Qin Feng had not progressed to the stage of a romantic relationship, Su Yu felt that it was almost there. It was just that the men and women of this world were more strict in their etiquette. Su Yu squinted his eyes. He was too lazy to care about the gossip. Look, the Silver King, Qin Tianan, has appeared. Just then, a cry of surprise rang out. Su Yu opened his eyes abruptly and shifted his gaze to look over. Under the gazes of the crowd, a dark-skinned, sinister-looking man, who was as thin as a twig, was clad in a moon-white, luxurious robe and had a silver crown on his head. He was like a supreme king, and amidst the crowd's reverence, he slowly walked over. With every step he took, everyone's gaze followed his every inch, and their hearts beat faster. The Silver King, the strongest of the silver students. It was rumored that he had challenged gold student Li Mingho, who was ranked 30th, and was defeated by one move. He became the first silver student in the Martial Arts Training Institute to almost enter the top 30 gold students. He was the strongest Silver King in history. It was rumored that his student number plate was just a hair's breadth away from evolving to gold. He was just one step away from becoming a gold student. Qin Tianan as the Silver King, sat on the most dazzling throne in the audience's stand. It was a throne made of pure silver, the exclusive throne of the Silver King. From there, one could overlook any corner of the arena. Beside the Silver King, is that his sister, Chinfeng? I heard that her arms were crippled by a silver boy. Beside Qin Tianan stood a young girl in a black robe. Her face was ugly and her eyes were vicious. At that moment, she was patrolling the area, looking for her unforgettable enemy. Brother, he's over there. Qin Feng's eyes narrowed as she discovered Su Yu's presence. It was as if she had found her mortal enemy. Su Yu did not avoid her. He looked over, his expression calm as usual. What was to come would come, and escaping was not a solution. Qin Tiannan's cold gaze was like a knife shooting over, as if it could pierce through Su Yu's entire body, making Su Yu shudder. A strong sense of threat that was not present in Xian Lifei, Su Sen, and Jiang Xueqing shook Su Yu's heart. The students around Su Yu were only affected by his gaze, and they immediately felt uneasy, their faces pale. Qin Tianan, is he looking at you? Did you offend him? A fat man, his eyes avoiding Su Yu's gaze, asked the tall man beside him, trembling with fear. What nonsense are you talking about? He should be looking at you. The tall man shivered and quickly lowered his head, not daring to look at Qin Tianan. The students nearby shifted their bodies uneasily. They were all frightened by that cold and sinister gaze. Just a single glance was enough to intimidate them. Qin Tianan, the Silver King's name, was very scary. Su Yu was not afraid. He looked back calmly, not afraid of confrontation. Qin Tianan did not speak, nor did he threaten Su Yu. He only grinned, his smile extremely sinister. Brother, you have to avenge me. Qin Feng was extremely resentful. Qin Tianan coldly withdrew his gaze. His voice was hoarse, like metal rubbing against each other, harsh and unpleasant to the ears. Don't worry if he hurts my Feng I will end his life in the cruelest way possible. Chun Feng's mouth cracked into a sinister sneer. Her brother's cultivation technique had an extremely evil cultivation technique that could make people delirious and turn them into lunatics. His life was over. Half an hour later, a total of 10,000 silver students had all arrived. The 100 referees were all present. Due to the large number of students at the silver assessment, many teachers had to be transferred. Teacher Jiang, who had taught the celestial being archery, was among them. Beside him was a middle-aged man in a blue robe, Jiang Zhisher. Jiang Zhisher held a high position and was in charge of the students' teaching. He was here as the head judge. His cultivation level had reached the frightening peak of level 4. In addition, the higher-ups of the institute were also present at the viewing platform. Among them, the most attention-grabbing one was, without a doubt, the vice housemaster. In the martial arts training institute, there was the great housemaster and the vice housemaster. They were the highest management of the institute. The abilities of the great housemaster were said to have reached the frightening level 7 of the martial path. In the Xinyu prefecture, he was a legendary invincible fighter. The vice housemaster was a frightening level 6 of the martial path. In the vast Xinyu prefecture, only a few strong fighters could rival him. Su Yu sized up the vice housemaster. He was middle-aged, dressed in a plain white robe. He looked handsome and extraordinary, but his expression was cold and indifferent. Su Yu had some respect for this person. His surname was Yi, and he was in charge of the institute's disciplinary matters. If any students violated the rules, he would investigate and punish them. Everyone respected him. Fortunately, this person was impartial. Even though he was strict, he was impartial. Even when dealing with the gold students, he was never biased. This caused the silver students to respect and love him. Housemaster, you looked at the arena and nodded slightly. The blue-robed Jiang Zhisher received the signal. He looked around coldly and shouted, "The annual silver assessment, the knockout competition, officially begins. Everyone will be randomly assigned to teams based on their student number. 10,000 people will be divided into 100 teams. According to the rules, everyone will have 10 chances to compete. As long as you can win 5 matches, you will pass the assessment. Winning 5 out of 10 matches meant that half of the people would not be able to win 5 matches. As such, half of the students would be eliminated. Many of the silver students were nervous. This kind of assessment also depended on luck. If they could meet 5 people who were weaker than them in the 10 matches, the chances of them being eliminated would be very high. Of course, if they were unlucky and ended up in the same team as those in the top 100, the chances of them being eliminated would be very high. Immediately after, Jiang Zhishir messed up the student numbers of the 10,000 students and randomly assigned them to 100 teams. Su Yu's luck was good, but not bad. The team he was in only had 1 silver student who was ranked 30th. Su Yu checked and found out that it was a student named Li Minghai. He was at level 2 peak and was on par with Su Yu. "Minghai, I'll watch out for you. Whoever dares to harm you, I won't forgive him." A slightly familiar voice crept into Su Yu's ears. When Su Yu tilted his head and looked over, his pupils involuntarily shrank. Su Yu had seen the speaker before. It was the gold student Li Mingho who had stolen Su Sen's girlfriend, played with her, and then abandoned her. Su Sen had sought revenge from him, but was knocked unconscious with one move. His strength was terrifying. But what really surprised Su Yu was that the silver student named Minghai was the follower of the young princess of Xinyu. That day, Su Yu had taken the opportunity to send him flying. He was actually a silver student of the Training Institute. Su Yu's heart slightly tightened. If he was recognized by the other party, there would be a lot of trouble. Fortunately, Su Yu had been alert at that time and had covered his face with his clothes. Even if they were to fight face to face, the other party might not recognize him. Moreover, Su Yu was not the only person who cultivated the universal stroke technique. Hence, he could not determine that Su Yu was the person from that day. As if feeling the gaze, Li Minghai stared back. His gaze was normal, obviously not recognizing that Su Yu was the pervert that the Duke of Xinyu was looking for. Thief! Su Yu and the others were brought to one of the arenas. The referee indifferently announced the start of the match. After a few rounds, Su Yu went up. Su Yu against Lu Ming. Lu Ming was at level 2 upper tier, slightly lower than Su Yu. He was a silver student and ranked near the top 100. "You are the Su Yu who defeated Qin Feng." Lu Ming's eyes showed his desire to fight. "Very good. I once challenged you, but you ignored me. Now let me fight you." "Let's fight," Su Yu said concisely, his crystalline pupils converging. Fighting was an opportunity for him to train. The crystalline pupils that could speed up the flow of time were only used at critical moments. Lu Ming's desire to fight rose, and he took the initiative to attack. Shattering Wolf Teeth. Lu Ming growled. Shattering Wolf Teeth was a low-grade medium-level technique. It was powerful and easy to learn. His legs were full of explosive power, like a giant wolf charging forward. His fists were in front of his chest, shaped like a wild wolf's fangs. Su Yu did not move. His eyes were cold and solemn. When his opponent was a meter away from him, Su Yu's right leg was like a whip. It flashed like a black shadow and suddenly kicked out. Continuous jade leaf kick. The retraction and release of the tune were done in one go, and it was completed in an instant. After many days of training, continuous jade leaf kick had been cultivated to the top class. Its power was not to be underestimated. Pow! Lu Ming's charging body was sent flying, as if he had been hit by a heavy ship. He fell outside the arena. The referee's eyes lit up. Continuous jade leaf kick had been cultivated to the top class. No wonder it had such explosive power. The surrounding people were also attracted by this battle. Their gazes all fell on Su Yu. No one had paid attention to him before, but now their gazes were serious. To many level 1 and even level 2 students, Su Yu was an absolute danger. Chapter 13. Su Yu did not feel any sense of accomplishment. He took out the student number plate expressionlessly and obtained a shred of martial arts ancestor energy. The silver-gray number plate had a hint of silvery white color. After a few rounds, Sun Fei against Su Yu. I admit defeat. Sun Fei bit her lips and looked at her student number plate with a pained expression as she lost a quarter of her martial ancestor chi. She was only at level 2 lower tier, so it was not difficult for her to pass the test. She could only sigh at her bad luck for encountering Su Yu. Even a second celestial layer adept was defeated in one move. Why should she seek trouble for herself? Better to conserve energy for later battles. Next, whenever Su Yu fought, he would be extremely excited. I admit defeat. I'm not fighting anymore. I admit defeat. Humph. I want to try. Jade Leaf connecting sky kick. Ah, Su Yu had achieved 4 consecutive victories. He was only one test away from passing. The referee smiled. Su Yu versus Li Minghai. Phew, these two ferocious gods have finally collided. Su Yu and Li Minghai were the 2 strongest people in the team, with 4 consecutive victories and no defeats. One of them was an old student with a great reputation, ranked 30th among the silver students. One was a rising star who defeated his opponent in one move with his basic leg technique. Unknowingly, Su Yu had gained some popularity, and his news spread like snowflakes. What? The Su Yu who failed to beg Jiang Xueqing to change her mind and jumped into the lake to commit suicide? Are you sure it's him? Impossible, right? I heard that Su Yu is only at level 1. How can he be so powerful? Hiss, in just 2 short months, there's actually such a huge change? I wonder what Jiang Xueqing would think if she saw this. After receiving the referee's announcement, the 2 of them jumped onto the stage. Li Minghai crossed his arms and sneered, "You're not bad, but it's a pity that you've met me. You've just obtained quite a bit of martial ancestor chi, and now it's all mine." Su Yu calmly glanced at the student number plate in his arms. It was silvery white. Although it was not the dazzling, silvery white color, it was still much better than Su Yu's. If he could obtain the martial arts energy of the other party, his student number plate would undergo a great change. Won't we know once we fight? Su Yu thought for a moment, then decided that it would be better for him to hold back. He would deal with it with the basic leg technique to avoid revealing any flaws and being recognized by him. Li Minghai sneered, "Do you think that I'm the same as you, that I can only cultivate low-grade cultivation methods?" He was the younger brother of Li Mingho and the follower of the young princess of Xinyu. How could his techniques be weak? Ferocious tiger fist. Li Minghai bellowed. He pushed his fists forward and retreated with strength. He pounced into the air like a ferocious tiger. Whether it was his aura or the force of his fist, they were both incomparably fierce and majestic. Su Yu felt a black shadow pressing down on him, and his breath became stagnant. In the Twilight Mountains, Li Minghai was seriously injured and had just woken up. He had hurriedly used the ferocious tiger fist, so its power was less than half. If Li Minghai was at his peak, Su Yu might not have been able to escape that day. However, Su Yu was no longer the same as before. In the past 8 days, his abilities had improved tremendously. Jade Leaf connecting sky kick. Su Yu was not afraid at all. His left leg stood firmly on the ground like a golden rooster. He lifted his right leg, bent his knee, and suddenly exploded. Under the powerful explosive force, his right leg left a blurry shadow in the air. The wind whistled as his right leg accurately kicked towards Li Minghai's jaw. Li Minghai wasn't an ordinary person either. His pouncing fists contracted and blocked in front of his lower jaw. Bang! His pouncing momentum was slightly hindered. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Li Minghai's feet landed on the ground. His expression changed slightly. He was shocked. What a powerful explosive force! Without years of training, it would be difficult to reach such a level. Feeling the slight pain in his arms, Li Minghai's eyes were filled with hostility. "You're looking for death." However, what made Li Minghai's expression change again was that his opponent did not stop after that kick. From his left foot, under the coordinated twisting of his ankle and knee joint, he actually moved over with one foot. His retracted right foot was like a continuous whip, continuously kicking. Li Minghai was furious, but could only use his arms to temporarily block. The audience below the stage was horrified. Li Minghai was actually beaten by Su Yu to the point where he could not retaliate. Li Minghai was a strong silver who had been famous for a long time. This Su Yu was too frightening. Bang! At the edge of the stage, Su Yu suddenly exerted force and kicked Li Minghai off the stage. "Ah, kid, I'll remember you." Li Minghai felt aggrieved. His medium-level cultivation technique was actually suppressed by his opponent's basic leg techniques. How could he not be embarrassed? Behind him, his brother Li Mingho coldly glared at Su Yu. Then he scolded Li Minghai. "Trash! You can't even beat a nameless junior. It's because he's too strange." Li Minghai was unconvinced. Li Mingho coldly said strange? Although he uses a basic cultivation technique, it has reached the peak state. His leg techniques are smooth and fluid. Although you are using a medium-level cultivation technique, you have only cultivated one stage and are full of loopholes. What's so strange about defeating you in the same realm? Soldiers are valued for their quality. He knows this better than you. Li Minghai was immediately scolded to the point of losing his temper. Feeling wronged, he said, "Brother, don't say any more. I already know. Aren't you going to help me get revenge?" Glancing at Su Yu, Li Mingho shook his head. "He's too weak. He's not worthy for me to fight. I'll inform Xian Lifei. If I meet him, I'll teach him a lesson." Xian Lifei? Li Minghai was overjoyed. Xian Lifei had been fawning on her brother, hoping to get some benefits. Now was the chance. Looking at the charming figure of Xian Lifei from afar, Li Minghai secretly licked his lips. "Cunning slut, you want to get benefits from my brother, but you don't want to give your body. If you had become my brother's plaything earlier, when he's tired of you, I could ride you too." Xian Lifei was very popular among the silver students, second only to Jiang Xueqing, one of the three great beauties. She was famous for her sweet and lovely face and her petite but mature figure. Unfortunately, she was very cunning. She wandered among the rich and powerful, but never let a man take advantage of her. She was the envy and headache of many young masters. There were many people who wanted to get her into bed. With Xian Lifei's powerful strength, second only to the Silver King, if she met Su Yu, it would be easy to teach him a lesson. Su Yu, 5 consecutive victories, successful advancement. The referee announced with a smile. The first student with 5 consecutive victories had appeared, defeating Li Minghai in one fell swoop. Su Yu's popularity skyrocketed. Even the other students in the group of 100 cast inquiring gazes, not knowing who this unfamiliar strong man was. Not far away, in the group of 100, Jiang Xueqing's snow-white eyes glowed as she stared at Su Yu. "I did not expect you to grow to such an extent." Surprise flashed in Jiang Xueqing's eyes, but it was quickly replaced by coldness. "Unfortunately, you are still not good enough for me. Jiang Xueqing, I, Jiang Xueqing, am destined to be extraordinary. You, Su Yu, will never be good enough for me." Shaking her head, Jiang Xueqing ruthlessly withdrew her gaze. The silver assessment's elimination phase was gradually coming to an end. Some people were overjoyed because they had luckily passed. Others were unfortunate enough to be defeated, wailing on the spot. Sounds of joy and crying merged into a complex melody, reverberating in Su Yu's heart. What a cruel world. Su Yu sat quietly below the arena, slowly opening his eyes. His eyes reflected the dejected students who had returned to their dormitories, packed their bags, and returned home alone. If not for the 9-dragon cauldron, he would probably be one of these people. Sighing, Suyu clenched his fists. His abilities were still too weak. If he did not improve, there would come a day when he would be a lonely loser in another arena. Determined to train, Suyu closed his eyes to rest. 2 hours later, there were only 200 people left on the arena. All of them had brighter silver student tags. Suyu had won 5 times in a row. His student tag was no longer the same as before. It had evolved from silver gray to silver white. Next would be another highlight of the silver assessment, the silver ranking competition. This was the segment that the Institute's higher-ups were most concerned about. The previous assessments had been too low, so they did not pay much attention. Only the silver assessment in front of them showed some signs of improvement. To put it bluntly, the top 200 silver students were just slightly more useless. In their eyes, only the gold students were qualified. This time, the ranking competition was split into 10 teams, each with 20 people. This time, there was no one in Suyu's team that he knew, but there were many people in the team who knew him. Suyu, this demon is also in our team? This person is very powerful. We're not too lucky. What's there to sigh about? Even without Suyu, it would be difficult for us to get a good ranking. Didn't you see that the silver student ranked 4th, Zhang Fan, is also here? A silver student at level 2 peak sighed helplessly. Also, take a look at who the referee for this arena is. Another silver student at level 2 peak secretly signaled with his eyes. Everyone tilted their heads to look. Their referee was Teacher Jiang, who taught archery. His rugged face and fierce gaze left a deep impression on everyone. Zhang Fan is Jiang Zhisher's only son. He is Jiang Zhisher's only son, and Jiang Zhisher's brother, Teacher Jiang, is protecting him. In the arena, even if someone has the ability to win against him, I'm afraid no one would dare to win. Yes, if Jiang Zhisher seeks revenge after this, we will be in serious trouble. Zhang Fan stood proudly in the crowd with a jade crown on his head. His face was considered handsome, and his chin was slightly raised. Even when he walked, he always gave people the feeling that he was looking down on others. But he did have the capital to do so. Being ranked 4th in the silver rankings was enough to show his great strength. He was at level 2 peak of the martial path, possessed a medium-level cultivation technique, and had Jiang Zhisher's guidance at the Institute. Just these alone made him far more powerful than Li Minghai. First round, Zhang Fan versus Wei Tao. The gazes of the audience suddenly tightened. The first round was Zhang Fan. Wei Tao is ranked 10th in the silver rankings. It is said that he comes from a small family and possesses a medium-level cultivation technique. He is very powerful and has been famous in the Institute since a year ago. Under the gaze of the crowd, Zhang Fan leaped onto the arena like a rock spreading its wings, his body light and agile. Zhang Fan's movement technique is very good. The students were envious. Movement techniques as a supplementary technique were very helpful, and many people wanted to cultivate them. But it was often extremely difficult to comprehend a good movement technique. For example, the rock spreading its wings was in the depository of scriptures. Many people had tried it, but only a few had successfully cultivated it. The reason was that it was too difficult to comprehend. Even after studying it for 10 days to half a month, they still could not understand it. As a result, a lot of time was wasted, and as time passed, they all gave up. It wasn't worth it to give up on one's main cultivation technique for a supplementary one. Of course, it wasn't that there weren't any movement techniques that were easy to pick up, but the effects were minimal. Zhang Fan's display of his skill caused many people to be envious. Chapter 14. Then, Wei Tao stepped onto the stage. He also jumped up, but his movements were clumsy. Wei Tao was 15 years old, with a thick waist and a firm face, like a 20-year-old adult. His body was strong. The muscles in his arms, chest, abdomen, and legs bulged like balloons, giving off a strong sense of power. Suyu secretly clicked his tongue. Those who could enter the top 10 silver ranks were not ordinary people. I heard that Wei Tao challenged Fan Li, who was ranked 5th last month, and almost defeated him. His current ability is enough to enter the top 6. That's right, I've heard that too. It might not be easy for Jiang Fan to defeat him. Teacher Jiang slightly creased his thick black eyebrows. Let the duel begin. Jiang Fan lightly nodded his chin. I'll let you have one move. Make your move. Hearing this, the audience could not help but gasp. Isn't Jiang Fan too arrogant? How dare he look down on others? Wei Tao felt humiliated, his eyes gleaming. Jiang Fan, don't look down on me. I almost defeated Fan Li. How much stronger can you be? Jiang Fan stood with his arms crossed, his expression indifferent. Although he was looking at Wei Tao, he did not see Wei Tao, only Qin Tianen. In his eyes, he could only see the stronger Qin Tianen, the Silver King, and not anyone weaker than him. What a condescending man! The audience could not help but be shocked. Being completely ignored, Wei Tao was furious. Overlord Lion Armor. Wei Tao's terrifying body, filled with explosive power, suddenly collided with Jiang Fan. The fierce energy stirred up the air, blowing the robes of the audience. So fast! The audience could not help but exclaim, subconsciously sweating for Jiang Fan. Jiang Fan seemed to be a little careless this time. He was going to suffer this time. But, swish! Just as Wei Tao was about to collide, Jiang Fan tipped his toes and leaped 2 meters into the air, easily dodging the powerful impact. A hint of disdain and mockery appeared on Jiang Fan's face. I've already let you have one move. A cold voice floated into Wei Tao's ears. Wei Tao's expression changed. He had a bad feeling. Heavenly Eagle Thrust. Jiang Fan was in the air, his toes forming a hook. Using the momentum of the spin, his toes spun like a screw, piercing towards Wei Tao's neck. Bang! The tremendous force that came from his neck caused Wei Tao to kneel abruptly. Wei Tao's sturdy body was actually forced to kneel by Jiang Fan. Without waiting for Wei Tao to resist, Jiang Fan spun his feet again and kicked his temple. Wei Tao only had time to scream before he fainted from the kick. The Taiyang acupoint was one of the most dangerous acupoints in the human body. If one were to suffer a blow from it, they would only faint, which was considered a light injury. This Jiang Fan was so ruthless. Su Yu's heart turned slightly cold. Jiang Fan landed on the ground and easily defeated Wei Tao. His face was full of disdain as he glanced at Wei Tao. Can't even withstand a single blow. Let me tell you, Fan Li couldn't even last one move against me. What's the point of almost defeating him? Hiss! The sound of people gasping could be heard from below the stage. Fan Li, who was ranked 5th, could not even withstand a single blow from Jiang Fan? Jiang Fan has become stronger again. Previously, Fan Li could barely withstand 10 moves from him. But now he can't even withstand a single blow? Teacher Jiang announced with a smile, Jiang Fan wins. Following that, Jiang Fan went up to the stage several times. Without exception, he defeated his opponent with one move. Of course, Su Yu was not inferior to him. He defeated his opponent with one move from his continuous jade leaf kick. Half a day later. Phew! Jiang Fan is so strong, he has already won 18 times in a row. And there's Su Yu, he has also won 18 times in a row. Without a doubt, Su Yu was the biggest dark horse in this silver assessment. Go Su Yu! I have faith in you. Some of the female students, who sympathized with Su Yu's experience in love, were cheering for him at that moment. Many of the silver students who had been at the bottom for a long time saw Su Yu as their role model and cheered for him. Of the 3,000 students who had passed the elimination round, 400 to 500 were cheering for him. Although the cheers were sparse, the words Su Yu could be heard from time to time. Those who did not know Su Yu started asking about his background and achievements. At the VIP seats, Housemaster Yi followed the crowd's cheers and shifted his gaze. As the head judge, Jiang Zhisher could not help but look at Su Yu. His face darkened. Why is it him? If he had not seen it with his own eyes, Jiang Zhisher would have forgotten about him. The Duke of Qin had repeatedly urged him to chase Su Yu out of the training institute and ruin his future. Jiang Zhisher did not take it to heart. With Su Yu's potential and abilities, he would definitely be eliminated. How would he be able to fight his way into the ranking round? Jiang Zhisher had an illusion. Was the Su Yu in front of him really the Su Yu he knew? Jiang Zhisher's face darkened. How could he mess up the matter of the Duke of Qin? However, with the housemaster present, he could not be overly biased. He could only act according to circumstances, but he was relieved to see that his son was present. With Fanner here, there was no doubt that Su Yu would not advance any further. On the arena, Teacher Jiang stared at Su Yu with displeasure. He had an impression of this person. Miss Xia admired his superb archery skills, so much so that she gifted him the Kailan bow. To think that other than archery skills, Su Yu's abilities were also impressive. With his perfect basic leg techniques, he had won 18 matches in a row. As such, he and Jiang Fan were only one match away from winning 19 matches in a row, achieving complete victory. Next round, Jiang Fan versus Su Yu. Jiang Fan gracefully stepped onto the arena. In comparison, Su Yu is extremely clumsy. I'll let you have one move. Jiang Fan looked down at Su Yu, still not seeing Su Yu. Many people were secretly worried for Su Yu. Jiang Fan was very powerful. Just as the crowd was nervous, a discordant voice petrified them on the spot. Hey, with your nose in the air, aren't you afraid that birds will poop on you? Su Yu curled his lips. Pooh! Someone nearly spat out the mouthful of tea in his mouth. Many people below the arena covered their mouths and snickered. This Su Yu really had a sharp tongue. Jiang Fan's gaze turned cold. Humph! A useless piece of trash whose woman was stolen has the guts to mock me? Fine, since you're asking for it. Don't blame me for not showing mercy. Jiang Fan lightly tapped the ground with his toes, displaying his movement technique. He moved like a ghost to speed fast. When he was 3 meters away, he soared into the sky like a rock spreading its wings. Then he spun and descended, his feet like the claws of a rock, aiming for Su Yu's head. Looking at his posture, he did not care if Su Yu would be injured. His attacks were ruthless. Su Yu's expression was calm. His eyes were as deep as the starry sky, without a trace of emotion. His sharp eyes searched for an opening in his opponent's defense. His right leg was like a whip, sweeping out. Slap! Jiang Fan twisted his left leg, blocking the kick. Then his right leg was still like a claw, thrusting toward Su Yu. He sneered. Even if the basic leg technique is perfect, it cannot compare to a medium-level technique at the upper-class level. Scram! Jiang Fan's right leg thrust forward without any resistance. Su Yu's face was filled with mockery. At the critical moment, he changed his posture. Blue sky underworld. Punches and kicks were thrown out one after another, flowing smoothly and without any pause. A punch arrived, followed by a kick. As soon as the kick stopped, another punch came flying over. The punches and kicks intertwined, leaving afterimages. In that instant, it was difficult to distinguish the kicks from the punches. Jiang Fan's face turned stiff. He was in the air, so he had no choice but to use his legs to block. But he had no leverage. How could the speed of his legs be faster than the ferocious, continuous attacks? Thump! All of a sudden, Su Yu's leg shadow kicked ferociously. Without any deviation, he kicked his opponent's crotch. Jiang Fan's face was pale and he gasped. After tumbling to the ground, he covered his crotch with both hands, his forehead dripping with cold sweat, not daring to move. Even the slightest movement would cause a heart-wrenching pain in his crotch. You dare hurt me? I will teach you a lesson. Jiang Fan glared at Su Yu, his eyes filled with anger. Humph! Su Yu did not hold back. Universal Stroke continued, landing a punch on Jiang Fan's head, sending him flying out of the arena. The double pain caused Jiang Fan to faint. The people below the stage sucked in a cold breath. They had already considered Su Yu a dark horse, but they did not expect Su Yu to be stronger than they had imagined. Jiang Fan, who was ranked 4th, was no match for him. In an instant, the arena attracted everyone's attention. The defeat of Jiang Fan, who was ranked 4th, meant the birth of a strong martial artist comparable to the top 3 silver talents. House Master Yi, who had been paying attention to the arena, squeezed out a rare smile on his cold face. Universal stroke looks like it has been cultivated to stage 2 top class, achieving 4 consecutive strikes. Jiang Fan's defeat is within reason. The expressions of the head referee, Jiang Zhisher, and the referee, Teacher Jiang, suddenly changed. They rushed off the arena to check on Jiang Fan's injuries. Realizing that he had only fainted, they heaved a sigh of relief. Teacher Jiang fiercely turned his head. Su Yu! It was just a sparring match. Why did you have to be so heavy-handed? Facing his fierce gaze, Su Yu had a matter-of-fact expression. Jiang Fan was ruthless in every aspect, even daring to kick Wei Tao's temple, a dangerous place. Teacher Jiang saw this, but did not stop him. I thought this was a fight to the death, so I was a bit heavy-handed in order to protect myself. I did not expect that Jiang Fan would not be punished for being ruthless, but I, a student with no background, would be blamed for being ruthless. If I had known, I would have stood still and let Jiang Fan beat me to death. Su Yu's face was full of regret. At that moment, countless hidden gazes shot over, filled with dissatisfaction. Housemaster Ye's gaze turned cold, and he let out a light grunt. Even if you want to protect your own family, you have to look at the situation. The head referee, Jiang Zhisher, had a bad feeling and glared at Teacher Jiang. Do you have a brain? Aren't you looking for trouble with such obvious favoritism? While thinking, he announced impartially, after confirming that Su Yu is not suspected of cheating, Su Yu wins this match. Oh. They were checking to see if Su Yu was suspected of cheating. Not many people believed this high-sounding reason, but it successfully gave the brothers a way out. Otherwise, they would not have a good ending if they were to be angered by the public. Su Yu was first in the team with a record of 19 consecutive victories. At that moment, Su Yu's student number plate shone with a dazzling silver light, reaching the pinnacle of a silver student number plate. Looking at Su Yu, who was like an undefeatable dark horse, everyone had different reactions. Chun Feng's fingers dug into her flesh, and she said resentfully, "How did he become so strong in just a few days?" A large hand lightly patted her shoulder, and a cold, hoarse voice came. "What is Jiang Fan?" "In front of me. He did not even have the courage to look me in the eye. Su Yu defeating him is nothing." Chun Tiannan's expression was cold, his eyes indifferent, with a faint sense of invincibility and loneliness. The Silver King was an undefeatable existence among the Silver students. In a year where he rarely met a worthy opponent, he could only find a gold student to relieve his loneliness. Chapter 15. Jiang Xueqing was resting beside Qin Fun. She was a level 3 and had become the dark horse of the meet, taking first place in the group competition. She glanced at the situation with Su Yu's team, and her beautiful eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. Su Yu was stronger than she had imagined. Able to defeat Jiang Fan, she felt a slight tightness in her chest. She did not know why, but the stronger Su Yu was, the more uncomfortable she felt. She did not want to see Su Yu become stronger. At this moment, a gentle voice entered her ears. "Qing'er, if you meet Su Yu later, remember to be merciful. You are level 3, and he is a level 2. If you strike too hard, you might hurt him." Qin Fun seemed gentle, but he sighed. "After all, you were once a couple. If you drew your swords against each other, my sins would be even greater. I am the cause of your current state." Jiang Xueqing froze, then understood. That's right. She was a level 3. Wouldn't it be easy for her to deal with a level 2? If she met Su Yu later, she would defeat him without a doubt. The uneasiness in her heart dissipated. Jiang Xueqing turned back, her eyes gentle as she gazed at Qin Feng. Brother Feng, you are too kind. You do not owe Su Yu anything. You do not need to blame yourself. As she spoke, she looked at Su Yu again, her eyes cold and emotionless. He and I are no longer connected. From now on, my body and heart will belong to Brother Feng alone. As for Su Yu, I will defeat him with my absolute strength and let him know that he is not worthy of me. Jiang Xueqing. Jiang Xueqing coldly glanced at Su Yu. Qin Feng's eyes hid a cold smile. He did not care about Su Yu's life or death. He was just taking the opportunity to comfort Jiang Xueqing, afraid that she would be swayed by Su Yu's rise. However, when he heard, my body and heart belong only to Big Brother Feng, he felt his stomach heat up. Jiang Xueqing was too beautiful, like a fox fairy. Qin Feng felt lucky to be able to pursue her. As a junior duke, he had seen too many beautiful women. But someone like Jiang Xueqing was extremely rare. Unfortunately, even though she was his girlfriend in name, she had always abided by her duties. He had never even touched her hands, let alone in bed. Qin Feng had created a few accidents. He wanted to take advantage of the opportunity to have skin-to-skin contact and gradually get rid of the barrier in her heart. He wanted her to get used to the contact between a man and a woman. Then he would slowly develop his relationship with her. Finally, he would get her into bed and completely occupy this breathtakingly beautiful body. Unfortunately, although Jiang Xueqing was vain, she was indeed very pure. The moment they came into contact, she immediately moved away, deliberately keeping a distance from him. Qin Feng knew that he had made Jiang Xueqing unhappy, so he didn't do this again. Haha, you just have to know what you're doing. A month from now, when I take first place in the Golden Student Competition, I'll use this honor to ask my father to help us get engaged. What do you think? Qin Feng was very excited. Jiang Xueqing was delicate. Her body trembled slightly, and she bit her lip lightly. She looked at the ordinary Su Yu from afar, and after a long while, she nodded lightly. All right. With the word good, she was destined to never be able to turn back. In a month, she would be Qin Feng's fiancée and Marquis Qin's daughter-in-law. She would be a woman who would grace the world. From then on, she would enjoy a lifetime of glory, splendor, and wealth, standing above millions of people. Su Yu, don't blame me, it's your incompetence. My beauty should not be buried by you. Silently sighing in her heart, Jiang Xueqing closed her eyes. Qin Feng was overjoyed. Once she became his fiancée, intimate contact would undoubtedly increase by a lot. Getting her into bed was just around the corner. At the thought of straddling this delicate body that countless men dreamed of, conquering her and riding her, Qin Feng's anticipation was indescribable. In a month at the Golden Student Competition, I, Qin Feng, will take first place. An unparalleled conviction filled Qin Feng's mind. Li Minghai's eyes were filled with suspicion, and he stared at Su Yu for a long time. That similar fist and leg technique reminded him of the masked man he met in the Twilight Mountains. What's wrong? Li Mingho was packing his things and leaving with Li Minghai. He was ranked 30th in the silver rankings, unable to fight his way into the top 10. Li Minghai's battle had already ended, and he was preparing to leave. Li Minghai doubtfully said, I feel that the person wanted by the Duke of Xinyu is similar to him. That fist and leg technique is very similar. Is that so? Li Mingho lightly shook his head. That is universal stroke. There are many people who practice it. Just now, at least 10 people used this technique, but the level of mastery was not as high as you said. To be able to hit 8 times in a row, that is the level of mastery of stage 3 lower class. Only gold students can successfully practice it. Li Minghai thought about it and agreed. This Su Yu was just a pitiful person who had been abandoned. Although he did not know how his abilities had improved by leaps and bounds, it was really difficult to practice universal stroke to a higher level. If I didn't have to hurry back to chat with the young princess to relieve her boredom, I really want to see how Xian Lifei will teach him a lesson later. Glancing at Su Yu, Li Minghai unwillingly left. Su Yu, who was secretly watching the two of them leave, heaved a sigh of relief. With Li Minghai gone, he could do whatever he wanted. 2 hours later, the silver ranking competition came to an end. The last highlight of the competition had finally arrived. Jiang Zhisher, as the chief referee, stood in the central arena. I announce, the last battle, the battle for the title of Silver King, has officially begun. Let's welcome the first place winners of the 10 teams to the arena. Su Yu and the others stepped into the arena one after another. They were the ones with the highest winning streaks among the 20-man teams. Jiang Xueqing was among them. The Silver King, Chen Tiannan, was still firmly seated in his seat. Only the strongest among the 10 people on the arena would be qualified to challenge the former Silver King. The 10 of you will draw lots to compete. In the first round, 5 will be eliminated, and the remaining 5 will compete. 4 of you will fight, and the remaining 1 will directly enter the semi-finals, Jiang Zhisher announced. Su Yu and the others stepped forward to compete. His luck was not bad, as his opponent was the 6th-ranked silver fighter from the previous batch. He won this battle without any suspense. Jiang Xueqing's luck was also good, as she easily won against the 8th-ranked student. Following that, the 3rd-ranked Su San won. The 2nd-ranked Xian Lifei won. The last person was the 5th-ranked Fan Li. He was lucky enough to meet the 9th-ranked silver fighter and luckily entered the semi-finals. As such, there were only 5 people left. Begin drawing lots. One of the lots is blank. Those who draw it will not need to compete and will directly enter the semi-finals, Jiang Zhisher announced indifferently. The 5 of them drew lots one by one. Su Yu calmly looked at his wooden stick, and he was stunned. Isn't my luck a little too good? He saw that there was no opponent's name on his lot, which meant that he had directly entered the finals. Of the other 4, other than Jiang Xueqing, who did not even glance at him, the other 3 all looked at him enviously. Su Yu was happy to watch from the side, and at the same time observe their abilities. The battle between Jiang Xueqing and Fan Li was not very interesting. Jiang Xueqing, with her level 3 cultivation base, defeated Fan Li in 2 moves and entered the semi-finals. Su Yu's focus was on Xian Lifei and Su Senator of these 2. One was the 2nd-ranked silver fighter, and it was said that he had almost succeeded in challenging Chen Tiannan. The other was 3rd-ranked silver fighter, and his abilities could not be underestimated. Both of them were level 3 lower tier, and the difference in their abilities was unfathomable. Xian Lifei smiled as she stepped onto the stage. Her coquettish figure outlined a seductive curve, attracting many male students to sneak glances at her. Youths were shy and full of lust. Their gazes met. This Xian Lifei was like a little demon. Hee, brother Su Sen, you have to go easy on me. Xian Lifei smiled coquettishly. Su Sen's face was gloomy. After experiencing Li Qian's betrayal and being defeated by Li Mingho, he was frustrated and did not have the mood to respond. He said indifferently, "Let's begin." Swift horizontal knife. He pulled out his knife with a backhand, his expression slightly fierce, as if he could only maintain this state during battle. Xian Lifei smiled and patted her waist. From a colorful pocket, 2 purple bats flew out. Different from ordinary bats, the purple bats exuded a strong demonic energy, giving people a fierce feeling. Level 1 demonic beast, purple-blooded bat. Someone recognized the origin of this object and was shocked. Su Yu's pupils shrank slightly. The power of a level 1 demonic beast was still vivid in his mind. The fire dragon snake was so difficult to deal with. However, based on intuition, it seemed that the purple-blooded bat was far less powerful than the fire dragon snake. That's a young level 1 demonic beast. Its strength is only around level 3 lower tier. Look at how scared you all are. A slightly knowledgeable old student curled his lips. The surrounding crowd suddenly understood. So that's how it is. If it was a mature level 1 demonic beast, Xian Leafy Eye would have long become the Silver King. However, even if it's a young one, it's still very dangerous. The purple-blooded bat can emit ultrasonic waves that can't be heard by the human ear, causing symptoms such as fainting. It will take the opportunity to pounce and suck blood. The toxins contained in its body will also be injected into the human body, paralyzing them and making them vulnerable. In the forest, purple-blooded bats often live in groups. Once encountered, even a strong level 4 martial artist will be paralyzed by the poison and then slowly sucked dry by a group of purple-blooded bats. Hearing this, those who knew for the first time shuddered. In the arena, Su Sen's expression changed. The long knife in his hand changed from a slash to a horizontal sweep, trying to sweep away the 2 purple-blooded bats. Xian Leafy Eye pursed her lips into a sweet smile and whistled. Chirp! Suddenly, the 2 purple-blooded bats took the opportunity to open their mouths and emit a silent ultrasonic wave. Ah! Su Sen's body suddenly trembled and he quickly retreated. He gritted his teeth and frowned, a trace of pain spreading across his face. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Xian Leafy Eye closed in and lightly patted Su Sen's body with her tender little hands. Su Sen wanted to resist, but the 2 purple-blooded bats took the opportunity to pounce and emit ultrasonic waves at close range, slightly hindering Su Sen's movement. In the end, Su Sen suffered a blow and was knocked out of the arena. Jiang Zhisher nodded slightly. Xian Leafy Eye was indeed the second silver student, suppressing Su Sen. Xian Leafy Eye wins. As such, there were only 3 people left in the arena: Su Yu, Jiang Xueqing, and Xian Leafy Eye. Among the 3, only one would be left to challenge the Silver King, Qin Tianan. Jiang Zhisher secretly glanced at Su Yu with a cold look in his eyes. This person's performance was amazing. From an ordinary silver student who was about to be eliminated, he had made it to where he was today. Unfortunately, he had to stop here. Jiang Xueqing and Xian Leafy Eye were both strong level 3 martial artists. Su Yu had no chance of winning. The semi-finals officially begin. First round, Su Yu versus Jiang Xueqing. Chapter 16. Interesting. This is too interesting. A mediocre person who was abandoned by Jiang Xueqing actually walked in front of her and challenged her. I really want to know what Jiang Xueqing is thinking right now. The 2 of them went up the stage. Jiang Xueqing's clear eyes did not waver in the slightest. She looked at Su Yu as if he was a stranger, cold beyond compare. Even though Su Yu had defied the trend and stepped into the ranks of Silver Peak, she did not feel the slightest bit of regret. Su Yu, admit defeat. You are no match for me. Not in the past, not now, not in the future, never in the future. Jiang Xueqing's eyes were filled with wind and snow. Her words did not have the slightest bit of warmth. Su Yu's expression was indifferent. He looked at her as if he was looking at a stranger, remaining silent. It was a waste of his saliva and energy to speak to such a heartless woman who thought so highly of herself. He quietly waited for the judge to announce the start of the duel. Other than that, he was unwilling to say anything more to her. Receiving a silent response, Jiang Xueqing thought that he was being stubborn and unwilling to admit defeat. Shaking her head slightly, her brows creased. Jiang Xueqing's eyes were filled with disgust, unrepentant. Born in poverty, you should lower yourself and stubbornly refuse to admit defeat. What's the use of that other than asking for trouble? Do you know why I left you? Because you have no abilities, no background, yet you hold onto your pitiful pride. You hit a wall everywhere, and even caused me to be looked down upon by others. Jiang Xueqing's tone was filled with reprimand. She seemed to have recalled the past, her hatred exploding forth. That's why I left you. I chose my own life. Do you see that in the past I was slightly weaker than you? But now I have far surpassed you. In the future, the gap between us will only grow wider." Jiang Xueqing's shoulders trembled slightly, her face filled with relief. She felt that she had finally walked onto a bright path. When she looked at Suyu again, her eyes regained their coldness and heartlessness. "Suyu, you are not worthy of me. You were not worthy of me in the past, and you will never be worthy of me in the future. Remember my words. You will never be worthy of me. You will never be worthy of me." These words were shouted in front of thousands of people, in front of the entire school. Everyone looked at each other. Some were sympathetic, some were gloating, and some were disgusted. In a hidden location, a woman as beautiful as a fairy from a painting frowned slightly. She glanced at Jiang Xueqing with some displeasure. Her gaze landed on Suyu. The beautiful eyes of the celestial being contained a shred of sympathy and gentleness. "So his name is Suyu. He is clearly a genius in archery, and his talent in cultivation is not bad. Yet he received such treatment. That Jiang Xueqing will regret it in the future." Jiang Zhisher secretly mocked him. Fighting over a woman with the little duke would only lead to such a sad ending. Su Yu was the first person who had ever been told by a woman in the past that he would never be worthy of her. At first, Su Yu did not want to bother with her. However, what he did not like was that this woman's words were becoming more and more outrageous. It was as if it was Su Yu's fault that she had fallen into someone else's embrace. Stretching his body lazily, Su Yu shook his head and said, "Since you've become a whore, don't put up a memorial arch, okay? You were the one who was vain and threw yourself into the arms of another man, but you pushed the responsibility to me. Also, please don't think too highly of yourself. I, Suyu, am not interested in a frivolous woman like you," Suyu said indifferently. He looked at Jiang Xueqing from afar as if she was a stranger. The crowd was in an uproar. The Suyu who had once knelt before Jiang Xueqing and begged her to change her mind. The Suyu who had once drowned himself in a lake because of love. He had actually called Jiang Xueqing a whore in front of everyone. Not only was the crowd dumbfounded, even Jiang Xueqing herself was stunned. In her memory, Su Yu had always treated her like a treasure. He held her in his hands, afraid that she would shatter. He had also held her in his mouth, afraid that she would melt. He did not even dare to speak loudly. Seeing that she was the slightest bit unhappy, he would be so scared that he did not even dare to breathe loudly. When she scolded him, not only did he not dare to get angry, he would even laugh along with her. She had never thought that such a Su Yu would one day scold her as a whore in front of everyone. For a moment, she even suspected that the person standing in front of her was Su Yu. It felt like they were two completely different people. Coming to her senses, Jiang Xueqing's jade-like face flushed red. Where was her dignity in front of the entire school? However, she did not think that when she reprimanded Su Yu in front of the whole school, as if he was a good-for-nothing, he would never be worthy of her. At that time, how could Su Yu not have lost all his dignity? In the end, she only had her own selfish eyes and had never cared about Su Yu's feelings. Jiang Xueqing felt that countless people were staring at her. She wanted to find a hole to hide in. This was a humiliation that she had never experienced in her life. A wave of hatred, thick hatred, filled her heart. Jiang Xueqing was so angry that her body trembled. Her breasts rose and fell violently. "Su, you, I hate you." Jiang Xueqing's eyes were filled with anger and hatred. "Hate all you want." Su Yu lightly shrugged his shoulders. Her hatred could not cause any ripples in his heart. After saying this, Su Yu tilted his head to look at the judge. "I say, Jiang Zhisher, have you seen enough?" Actually, the duel should have started a long time ago, but Jiang Zhisher was happy to see Su Yu make a fool of himself. He pretended to organize his words to stall for time. Jiang Zhisher's eyes flashed with anger. Just as he was about to scold Su Yu, he met Housemaster Ye's dissatisfied gaze. This duel had dragged on for too long. Knowing that he could not delay any longer, he could only suppress his anger and announce, "Duel, start!" "Su, you, I will not let you off." Jiang Xueqing was filled with hatred. She lunged forward like a maniac, her attacks vicious. Colorful ribbon in the sky. Jiang Xueqing attacked furiously. Colorful ribbon in the sky was a medium-level cultivation technique. 3 ribbons shot out from her sleeves, dancing in her palms like 3 whips. Creak! One of the ribbons brushed past the ground, scraping off a layer of skin like a knife. If it had landed on a human, at least a layer of flesh would have been scraped off. This Jiang Xueqing, her attacks are vicious. Just watch. If Suyu is no match for her, he should know to surrender. He is not stupid. Jiang Xueqing's heart was merciless. She only had one thought, and that was to torture him. She wanted to torture this damned man to the greatest extent possible. Don't even think of leaving the arena unscathed. Hearing her threatening words, Suyu's expression turned cold. The moment the ribbons attacked, Suyu's face turned cold. His figure moved like the wind, punching and kicking. Universal Underworld. Jiang Xueqing's 3 ribbons looked like they were moving at the same time, but Suyu's eyesight was good. He could see that the 3 ribbons were moving in a certain rhythm. As long as he attacked them one by one, he would be able to break this technique. In a split second, he attacked. First, he punched the first ribbon, quickly and accurately repelling it from the side. Then, without any gap between attacks, he attacked with his leg, kicking the second ribbon that was about to move. Immediately after, he punched the last ribbon. Finally, his leg was like a whip, flying across the sky, accurately kicking Jiang Xueqing's chest. Jiang Xueqing's expression changed. She immediately used her arms to block the kick, but a huge force was transmitted to her. What was more frightening was that her opponent's punches and kicks did not stop. They were as dense as a storm, not giving her any chance to breathe. For consecutive hits, 8 consecutive hits, 16 consecutive hits. Finally, Jiang Xueqing could not withstand the huge force. With a pathetic cry, she was kicked out of the arena by Suyu. This was the first time Suyu had used Universal Underworld at full force. It was used against the woman he used to be with. There was no mercy. Standing on the arena, Suyu looked down at the injured Jiang Xueqing, who was lying on the ground, her eyes filled with shock. "Looks like you are not as strong as you imagined. You were weaker than me in the past, and you are still weaker than me now." He could not be bothered to look at her. He returned to the center of the arena and closed his eyes to rest. "I actually lost. A level 3 lost to a level 2, and I lost to the man I had once abandoned." She felt that she had left Suyu far behind on the path of cultivation. But the reality was that Suyu had left her behind. In that moment, Jiang Xueqing could not accept the cruel reality. In her eyes, Suyu was only a weak and cowardly person with mediocre talent. But today, after she had improved by leaps and bounds, when she thought she was going to amaze the world with a single brilliant feat, just as she was about to soar into the sky, Suyu suddenly struck, slapping her down from the sky with a single slap. Such a cruel reality was like a bucket of cold water splashed on her, drenching her heart. Qin Feng rushed over, glaring angrily at Suyu. He then supported Jiang Xueqing with concern, but was rejected by her, not allowing him to touch her. Struggling to get up, Jiang Xueqing's eyes were filled with hatred. "Brother Feng, defeat him for me. As long as you defeat him, I will be yours." Jiang Xueqing's gaze was resolute. She knew that Qin Feng was lusting after her beauty. She also knew that the only thing that attracted Qin Feng to her was her beauty. Thus, she would not let Qin Feng touch her easily, as this was her only asset. Qin Feng was overjoyed, his heart thumping. Jiang Xueqing was finally willing to let him fight everything as long as she defeated Suyu. But according to the Institute's rules, Gold students could not challenge silver students. The goal was to protect silver students from being bullied. But there was an exception. That was the gold competition in a month. The top 3 gold students could invite the top 3 silver students to compete on stage, highlighting the gap between gold and silver students and encouraging silver students to improve. The silver students who were invited could not disobey. All right, in a month, I will easily defeat him and obtain the honor of the Gold King. Qin Feng was elated. According to their agreement, after obtaining the honor of the Gold King, Jiang Xueqing would agree to his engagement. Once he became the Golden King, he would be engaged to her, and he would be able to enjoy her beautiful body. Just the thought of conquering such a beauty and riding her made Qin Feng excited. He couldn't wait for the next month to come. No, a month is too long. I can't wait. As long as Suyu is around, she would not be able to eat or sleep in peace. Qin Feng's mind cleared up a little. He thought for a moment and said, "How about I think of a way to chase him out of the institute?" Jiang Xueqing coldly nodded. All right, ruin his future. Jiang Xueqing was afraid that Suyu would rise higher and higher. She was afraid that she would regret it one day. Housemaster Ye's eyes flashed. What a powerful brat! Universal stroke is a difficult technique to cultivate, but he has cultivated it to stage 3 upper class. He is just one step away from achieving the top class of unlimited consecutive strikes. After defeating Jiang Xueqing, Su Yu's popularity instantly reached its peak. There were many cheering for him. Chapter 17. Su Yu used his own actions to get rid of the humiliation. Su Sun let out a long sigh, feeling both envious and dejected. The atmosphere of the audience was ignited to a climax. Suyu, the dark horse, was too strong, simply amazing. Chen Tiannan stared coldly at the arena, a cruel smile on his face. I didn't expect him to make it this far. Chun Feng clenched his fists and said bitterly, "No matter how strong he is no match for my brother." Everyone was looking forward to Su Yu's next battle. Semifinals, last match, Su Yu versus Xian Lifei. Xian Lifei's strength did not need to be described. Su San was easily defeated by her. Hee, little brother is very strong. You'll have to go easy on me later. Xian Lifei smiled, but deep in her pupils was a hint of coldness. Before Li Mingho left, he had instructed her to teach this kid a lesson. So she would let the purple-blooded bats bite him twice to poison him and then give him a few punches. Su Yu smiled and cupped his hands. "Senior, please show mercy. Let the match begin," Jiang Zhisher announced indifferently. Xian Lifei smiled and patted her colorful pocket. 2 purple-blooded bats flew out. Su Yu immediately prepared himself for battle. The threat of ultrasound was smaller the further away one was from it. The best way to avoid ultrasound was to stay away from the bats. However, the 2 bats were extremely fast. Su San could not avoid the bats and was defeated by Xian Lifei. "Go!" Xian Lifei whistled. Whoosh! The 2 purple-blooded bats immediately flew towards Su Yu at an incredible speed. He could no longer hide. Xian Lifei was too strong. Any mistake would result in defeat. Cloud Shadow Duckweed Trace. Su Yu gave a low grunt, displaying the lightness technique that he had hidden for a long time. His figure was like the wind, leaping lightly like the shadow of a cloud, graceful and natural. It was also like duckweed drifting on the waves, catching a glimpse of it. The audience only saw a blur in front of their eyes. Su Yu had leaped 3 meters forward at an exaggerated speed. His speed was more than twice as fast as the purple-blooded bats. Xian Lifei hid to the side, secretly waiting for Su Yu to be poisoned. How could she guard against Su Yu hiding so deeply? Xian Lifei quickly summoned the bat to fly back. At the same time, she spread her legs and ran away with a cry. How could Su Yu do as she wished? The speed of the first level Cloud Shadow track was not inferior to Xian Lifei's. The space on the stage was narrow. At the same speed, there was not much space to escape. After a few breaths, Xian Leafy was shocked and angry. She had no choice but to confront Su Yu directly. Blue Sky Underworld. Su Yu used his strongest offensive technique without any hesitation in close combat. At this moment, the purple-blooded bats were very close behind him. He had to end this battle quickly. Xian Leafy was aware of the situation. She resisted with all her might, delaying Su Yu. Once the purple-blooded bats arrived, she would take control of the situation. Unfortunately, her expertise lay in controlling demonic beasts, not close combat. Blue Sky Underworld's punches and kicks were extremely fast and did not stop. They were like raindrops airtight. The seemingly long 16 consecutive strikes were completed in a breath's time. The last kick was so powerful that Xian Leafy was kicked in the soft chest and flew out of the ring. At this time, the purple blood bats had just arrived. Having lost their master, they stopped attacking and flew back to their master's side. Xian Leafy clutched her aching chest, her face blushing as she glared at Su Yu. Really, he dared to kick anywhere. She had lost this battle unjustly. The opponent had hidden such a powerful movement technique. If not for that, how could she have been defeated? But no matter what, she had lost. She reluctantly exited the ring. As she passed through the dark tunnel, Qin Feng flashed out. Xian Leafy, do something for me, and I'll give you a top-grade spirit elixir. Xian Leafy's expression changed as she exclaimed, Top-grade spirit elixir? A low-grade spirit elixir required 100 taels of silver. A middle-grade spirit elixir required 500 taels of silver. But a top-grade spirit elixir required a whole 2,500 taels of silver. Even if she hunted in the Twilight Mountains for a whole year, she would not be able to obtain so many taels of silver, apart from people with illustrious family backgrounds like the Junior Duke, who could easily come up with so many taels of silver. What do you want me to do? Of course, you can forget about touching me. Xian Leafy's beautiful eyes were blazing, but she was also vigilant. Qin Feng had also had designs on her. Qin Feng curled his lips in disdain. He was about to obtain Jiangshi etching, and Xian Leafy had no interest in it for the time being. I want you to do this for me. Qin Feng cautiously handed over a piece of paper that recorded what he wanted Xian Leafy to do. After Xian Leafy memorized it, he burned it, leaving no evidence. His father was at a critical moment. As his son, he could not add to his father's troubles. Xian Leafy was shocked when she saw it. She hesitated for a moment, then clenched her teeth and agreed, Okay, but the elixir must be given to me first. After some thought, Qin Feng slightly nodded and reluctantly handed it to her. Although he was a junior duke, it did not mean he could spend money as he pleased. His monthly allowance was only about 3,000 taels of silver. Now he had taken out 2,500 taels of top-grade spirit elixir in one go. It must be done. Qin Feng disappeared into the darkness. With his identity and family background, he was not afraid that Xian Leafy would steal the spirit elixir and escape. Xian Leafy nodded with a smile, of course. Looking back at Su Yu, Xian Leafy smiled sweetly. Little brother, I'm sorry. For my spirit elixir, I'll sacrifice myself. In the arena, Jiang Zhisher could not believe it. After a long time, he took a deep breath and coldly announced, Semifinals, Su Yu wins. In the VIP seats, Vice Housemaster Yi had a strange look in his eyes. His indifferent face had a rare trace of a gratified smile. Cloud Shadow is such a difficult, light body cultivation technique, and none of the gold students have successfully cultivated it. This boy's comprehension is quite amazing. How could he know that Su Yu could cheat? Others could comprehend it for 1 day, but he could comprehend it for 10 days. Others could comprehend it for 10 days, but he had already comprehended it for 100 days. Therefore, he had the opportunity to comprehend the light body cultivation technique that others found difficult to cultivate. The audience was thoroughly excited. The battle for the Silver King title, the ultimate battle, was finally about to begin. Suyu, go! Defeat Qin Tianan. Defeat him, and the next Silver King will be you. The students were excited, especially the silver students who had been in the middle and lower reaches for a long time. The Silver King, in their minds, was the supreme king, an existence that they had to look up to, a level that they could never touch. But Suyu, who was also at the bottom of the silver class, had turned the tables and fought with the dazzling Silver King for the crown. In an instant, Suyu had become the spiritual sustenance of countless silver students, the target they chased after, the dark horse that they placed their hopes on. The crowd was boiling. Wild roars, shouts, and roars accompanied their boiling blood, accompanied by their expectations, accompanied by their wishes, majestically surging out. The sky was filled with crazy roars, shaking the earth, echoing throughout the entire training institute. No one could remain calm, no one could remain calm. No one could act as if nothing had happened. They were all infected by the boiling blood. The strongest dark horse in history and the strongest Silver King, fighting for the supreme crown. Jiang Jisher, with disdain in his eyes, shouted, "Silver King! Qin Tianan, go! Qin Tianan, go! Go!" The echoing shouts stirred their blood, boiled their hearts, and responded to their eagerness. Qin Tianan, with the silver crown on his head, rose from the unique silver throne. A majestic aura, looking down on the world, approached. "Very good. You being able to come this far is enough for me to make a move." Qin Tianan, the strongest among the silver students, approached step by step. Chen Feng gazed at his brother's back, his eyes full of worship. Stepping into the arena, Qin Tianan took off the crown. Jiang Jisher took it back and announced indifferently, "The battle for the Silver King officially begins. The winner will be the new Silver King." Qin Tianan stood with his hands behind his back, not making a move, but staring coldly at Suyu. "Make your move, or you won't have the chance to." No one in the audience felt arrogant, because the Silver King had the right. Suyu smiled lightly, "No need. I've said before, the Silver King has changed owners today, and my methods are fair and square, not your charity." Qin Tiannan's face was cold, his voice hoarse and harsh. "Your courage is commendable, but unfortunately, you overestimate yourself. How can the light of a firefly compete with the brilliance of the moon?" "What do you think of Xian Leafy Eye's ability?" Qin Tianan suddenly asked. Suyu pondered for a moment, then gave a fair assessment, very strong. "Then let me tell you, a week ago, she challenged me, and I defeated her in one move." Qin Tianan said indifferently. The audience was in an uproar. Xian Leafy Eye, with her powerful abilities, defeated her in one move? Hiss! He is indeed the Silver King, the one with the strongest potential. Truly terrifying. Su Yu's expression was grave. Qin Tianan was the strongest opponent he had ever faced, but he would never admit defeat. "How can I know the outcome without a fight?" Su Yu took a deep breath and prepared himself for battle. Qin Tianan stood with his hands behind his back. "All right, I'll reluctantly make a move against you this once." "Angry Buddha." Qin Tianan let out a low growl, his skin glowing a faint bronze color, like a living bronze man. Lord Ye's eyes revealed a look of surprise. That's right. He has already cultivated the low-grade Buddha's Fury Vajra technique to the consummate level. His skin and flesh are indestructible, and ordinary attacks will not be able to harm him. Ghost Shadow technique. Qin Tianan growled again, displaying another technique. The fingernails on his palms gradually turned a gloomy green, glowing with a cold luster. An eerie aura emanated from his fingernails. At the same time, his eyes glowed scarlet, and his lips began to turn a dark green. From afar, he looked like a ghost. Not to mention fighting. Just looking at him would make one's heart go cold. Housemaster Yi was surprised. Ghost Shadow Technique, a top-notch medium-level technique with power comparable to a top-notch technique, has been cultivated to stage 2 by him? Not simple. At once, Suyu felt a cold and gloomy aura, and a thick sense of threat assaulted his senses, especially the 10 gloomy green ghost claws. Suyu could feel that even a touch would be extremely dangerous. Swish, Chin Tian Nan crossed 3 meters with 1 step, closing in on Suyu in 3 steps. The cold ghost claws viciously clawed at Suyu's chest. Suyu was on full alert, immediately activating Cloud Shadow. Like the falling shadow of a cloud, like duckweed in a river, he narrowly avoided the attack. Creak! Suyu dodged, but a corner of his clothes was touched by the gloomy green nails.